Let me know if that fan is too loud. Yeah, I might. Yeah, that's a little loud. Let me know if my volume is okay. Yeah. Turn it all the way up. There it is. All right. Whoa, whoa. Skeptical is a bitch. I like that. Let's see. Put my camera back on. Oh, got a little tilted out of place. Don't be American. Probably a Canadian. How's everybody doing out there, by the way? This is my first live stream on Hebrew apologetics. I welcome you all. Any questions you have while we're waiting on Skeptical to hop in, please, give me any questions that you have. Audio a little low. Damn, I had a feeling. Problem with that audio. Hold on one sec. All right. Yeah, I guess that's as loud as I can get it. I'll just talk loud. You guys can. I'll just talk loud. You guys know I have the ability to project, and I have no problem with talking loud. So I'll do that. I guess basically until he gets in here, I will kind of lay out where this whole kind of decision for this whole debate, where it's kind of brewed from. A few months back, I was on Franco's show, and we were talking about a couple of different issues, and I think I mentioned biblical prophecy or something like that. And for those who don't know, yes, I am a believer in the Bible. Um, it does guide a lot of my decisions and my faith and processing. So hopefully that doesn't offend anybody. I try never to be like the evangelicals who run around trying to beat people down with the Bible or, you know, force everyone to believe what I believe. If people have questions about my beliefs, then I have no problem with going into those beliefs. Let's see. Hey, Stevie. I'm glad to have you in here. Yeah, I have no problem going into my beliefs or listening to other people's beliefs, and that's kind of where I come from. Uh, I kind of started the whole Hebrew apologetics page because um, as I started to come into some of the same understanding of the Bible as many Hebrew Israelites, I realized that the tenor and tone is part of what took me so long to even hear the message. Um, Oftentimes, I would just hear in the middle of like rants and people yelling and a lot of, vitriolic statements and stuff. And sometimes it was, sometimes I'm not going to say I didn't, that I disagree with the statements, but sometimes it's the way it's presented, the way it's broad based, the way other parts of the scripture are not, you know, added in and included and thought about when certain approaches are made to people vaguely. So my goal was I wanted to be able to substantiate why I believe what I believe, lay out the case for why I believe what I believe, and do it in the way which I understand more. A lot of the Hebrew Israelites, most of them, um, before coming into really understanding the Bible, a large percentage came from very, very rough backgrounds. A large percentage, and I'm not trying to do this to shame any of them, but did not do very well in school. And so don't come with a strong foundation of some typical English language words. And so because they're not very fluid speakers, some of them, and because their conversation it can be easily hijacked when you misuse certain words and then it gets sidetracked. I felt a lot of the message which they were trying to overall come out and explain was getting lost. And so my goal is my goal was to do it a different way. And I want to be more inclusive. Just in the matter of what it says is Israel in the Bible, it says Israel is a speckled bird. And if you've ever seen a speckled bird, that means it's all different colors. So trying to look at any person just right off the jump and decide they're an Israelite, they're not an Israelite, I've always disagreed with that approach. And I still disagree with that approach when I see it from even some of the people I consider my teachers. Um, that said, there are certain phenotypes to certain nations. So as a whole, there's I guess you can say a certain modeled way certain nations or certain groups of people are going to look, but there's always going to be those people where you have no clue what goes back generation after generation after generation. And that's what's key to understand it. So the way I try to do it, the way the Bible says to measure if a person is an Israelite or not, is to test the spirit by the spirit. And what that means is you actually you read the text, you talk about the text, and you see if you both are getting a similar understanding, if certain of these prophecies, if they make sense to you, if curses, that's another huge thing about Israelites. Curses, if these curses, you're not experiencing these curses, or if you're experiencing these curses, these are signs that you could be an Israelite. And so that's the standpoint which I come from when trying to judge who's an Israelite or who's not an Israelite. Even though, under my biblical understanding, and I'm going to frame it this way because I know a good chunk of people who might be listening to me know me more from politics and news and top events and things like that, but are not used to maybe hearing the whole religious side. And many, I understand, especially a lot in the political field, are very, very sharp and intelligent, but have just never really looked into the Bible or believed in it. So I understand. So I'm not going to go deep into like reading a whole bunch of scriptures and trying to break everything down right now, unless there's questions. But what does that? What did it say? Mantis plural smell a bit like cheeseburgers. I mean, in fact, let me double check on. I sent him the link again. Sent him the link. Need to double check to make sure he got it. Ooh, don't kick over my light. Let's see. Letting him know that we are live right now. So whenever he gets in, feel free. Ooh, it's a warm day in the kitchen, and I don't have AC goes all the way across here. Don't want to have my volume too loud, so got the fan down cool for the moment. Now, what I was going into is the Bible literally talks about nations. The whole thing which you have to understand about the Bible is it is talking about nations, and it kind of breaks into, it splits them in half. Now, it splits it in the Israelites on one side, and then you have the people who are non-Israelites. And I'll say between those two factions, you do have some other nations which sometimes were at odds with the Israelites, but it sometimes helped the Israelites. So all of these different complicated backgrounds need to be understood. Hold on one second. Sorry about that. Just trying to work out a couple technical things. Thank you. But some of the you have to understand this full understanding, and a lot of things which I run into with atheists when debating the Bible is most of them have never actually read the Bible. Most of this conjecture or argumentation comes from what they understand from evangelical Christians. And so that goes into part of what I want people to understand the difference between what somebody who, like myself, who reads the whole entire Bible, who who looks at historical aspects, who looks at archaeology, all of these things to factor in this decision. I see we have Skeptical in the room. So how you doing, Skeptical?
Yo, what's up, Marcus? I'm glad we're having this conversation. I was hoping to talk with you about this for the longest time.
Well, I've been wanting to do it also. And not to and for those who don't know, he comes from the atheist point of view, and I want to keep this as peaceable, and respectful, because I believe that we can learn something from each other, from how different people perceive certain things and understanding. Skeptical is I would, in my understanding, I would say he's a very, very savvy skeptic. So I will leave it at that. I'll let you introduce yourself and some of your, I guess, your point of view and come into this discussion versus, I guess, my point of view and yours.
All right, cool. Thanks for calling me a savvy skeptic. I appreciate that. There's a lot of skeptics out there, but they're not all savvy, So that means a lot to me. I just want to clarify real quick that I am an atheist, but I consider myself an agnostic atheist. And I don't want to split too many hairs over terms, but I just want to clarify that sometimes when people say that they're an atheist, it could simply mean that they're agnostic. They just lack the belief in theism. They just lack the belief in a God. But some atheists could be considered hard atheists in the sense that they think that God does not exist. They actively believe God does not exist. I believe that we can't really know with any real certainty, and I don't want to believe in things that cannot be verified or known. So I hope that makes sense, just to kind of explain where I'm coming from with this.
No, thank you for the clarification, because I was kind of more under the impression that you were the former rather than the latter. And so I feel like this makes the discussion, I feel like there's a lot more possibility for this discussion to actually have a ways to build, that we might be able to build from some of this. Because if I have somebody who is a hardcore atheist, they're just not going to listen to anything I say, and they're going to try and find reasons to deflect, or always misdirect. And my thing is, I will do my best to answer every single question as long as we can deal decently in order. And so I'll take the questions. I have plenty of time, so we can go down each question that you have, and then I can give an adequate answer. But a lot of these things, we got to remember, biblically, we're talking about thousands of years of history, sometimes tens of thousands of years of history. So we just can't surmise it sometimes into a quick yes or no. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. It's very rare in any conversation to be able to answer just a simple yes or no. Although sometimes I think it's good to try to keep the answers as direct as possible while still explaining what you need to explain, Because I think sometimes in these discussions, especially the person who's in the position of defending a religion can sometimes give very long form answers that can become a bit, how would you say, like a diversion, or if you've ever heard the term, I don't know how you pronounce it, gish gallop, something like that. The person just talks, and then eventually you're like, yo, damn, what were we even talking about before,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying you're going to do that. I'm just saying, this is something that happens a lot. And atheists could do this as well. So, I don't know. I try my best to answer directly when possible, although it's not always possible.
Yeah, I'll do my best to do that also. And let's see, Choosy Heretics Choose, Carnation Revolution. I'm sorry about the audio. I'm not sure what the problem I'm having, but I'll do my best to try to belt out my answers. Hopefully you all can hear. Maybe let me slide over closer to the microphone side. Let me know if that helps any. But did you want to go with your I guess first question for me?
Yeah, sure. I just want to say that I can hear your audio pretty much perfect. So I don't know. Hopefully the audience can hear me and they could hear you well enough.
Yeah, they say
But
they hear. I just see hit or miss. Some people hear me well and some people aren't hearing me well. So I'm seeing like a 50-50 in the chat.
That's pretty weird. Yeah, I'm not the best one to deal with technical issues, so I hope the audio is good enough that they can appreciate the conversation and understand what's going on. But my first question will just be like, I gave you like a basic rundown of how I try to conduct these interviews, but sometimes, depending on what your answers are, that's going to influence what questions I might want to ask or where I want to take the discussion. Because it's not like I'm following a formula, but I do have a general guideline of how like I usually deal with these conversations. So I'll just start really simple and general, asking you, what's the main reason you believe in God? Then I would like to move towards, what's the main reason you believe in the Bible? And then I would like to know specifically how you got into Hebrew Israelism, what type of Hebrew Israelite you are, without going into like super, like too many details, because I know there are many different kinds of Hebrew Israelites out there. So yeah, I want to move from the very general, why you believe in God in the Bible, to the more specific, and then we can narrow it down. And you can ask me any questions too, and I'll try my best to answer in a clear way. So yeah, why is it that you believe in God?
Okay, the first reason why I believe in God is because I look at just this. Well, and you know what? I'll be honest. I'll give the first reason. For one, I grew up in a religious family. So that always has to be factored in. I feel it would be disingenuous for me to not acknowledge that. So I would have a sort of a bias or presupposition to already be, more akin to Bible teachings. Next thing is, as I've grown up and looked at more things throughout time, I look at the way this environment functions, and it's perfectly designed. Well, if we're not destroying the environment, which we mostly do, it's perfectly engineered and designed for human life. And for me, it to believe that just some big bang happened and it all just fell right into place perfectly for us to have the societies that we have. For me, that's less logical. That's a lot of just ifs and ands all just falling into place when I can see what looks like a design. Things like, for instance, seasons, they go in cycles and it helps for a certain, I mean, without going too far in depth, I just see that it appears to be everything is designed and created and it works out in a fashion where an intelligent designer, in my opinion, would have had to have done this. That is not random. Um, why do I believe the Bible? Well,
Okay, wait.
yes,
Before you get to that, I just want to try to sum up what you've said so far before we move on. So the two main reasons so far that you've given of why you believe in God, you admit and acknowledge that you grew up in a religious household, and that obviously influences your presuppositions and what you're more likely to accept in terms of growing up thinking God is real. You're more likely to pick
yeah.
up or continue with that belief when you're older. That
Well,
makes total sense.
not.
I'm glad that you
I,
say that.
I say that the being exposed to anything makes you more likely to have an interest in it or to follow it.
Agreed, especially I think when it comes to religious beliefs, because usually it could seem very far-fetched if you weren't already raised in it or around it or in a society where a lot of people believe it. Because when a lot of people in a society believe it, it seems less crazy. But like a religion you never heard of, if you just like hear of a totally new religion tomorrow, or like even modern religion, Scientology, all these different things,
Or
like it
Hebrew.
takes a different kind of mindset to pick that kind of idea up, because it seems very foreign to many people. All right, so that's your first reason. You grew up in a religious household, and your second one is like an intelligent design, fine tuning type of argument, right? Like the world seems that it was designed in a way that is, I think did you use the term like perfect for human life? I don't know if you used that
Uh,
word.
I don't know if I use the word perfect, but I would say that it's engineered. It seems as if it's definitely engineered for human life to exist.
Hmm. Okay, so can I ask a few follow-up questions about these two reasons, and then you could move on to talk about why you believe in the Bible specifically?
Sure.
Hmm. Okay, I want to ask about the fine-tuning intelligent design argument. Um, do you think it's mostly Earth and the atmosphere within the Earth that is intelligently designed for life, or are you saying just the universe in general, or this solar system, or what?
I'm
Or
saying
all of the above?
I would say the atmosphere in which we live in directly, because this is the atmosphere which we've been mostly contained to. So unless they tomorrow find out some way to get to all these far off planets, I mean, all I can base it on is things here, because this is the only evidence that we can go on.
Okay, so does that mean that you would agree that, as far as we know, the rest of the universe outside of Earth's atmosphere is not uh, does not seem to be intelligently designed, at least for the purpose of life?
Well, that's where it'll get into one of my beliefs. I believe a lot of what is put into science as far as what's going on in the cosmos and everything is a lot of theory, and it's not actually proven. It's a lot of theory which cannot even be verified because they can't get there to actually see these things. So if you're building a premise off of a theory and then building onto that theory and build a whole different, I guess, field beyond this whole theory, then how much weight do I take to that whole, that whole field?
Okay, what would be like an aspect of like astronomical theory, or like generally accepted aspects of the solar system and the rest of the universe that you think are highly questionable, or like you don't believe in? Would there be like some specific things you could
I,
point to that you think are not like verified?
I can give you an easy one. The sun, for instance. According to science, the sun is 93 million miles away. Now, how in the hell can anybody measure that? If they say that the sun is supposed to be a level, the heat level on the sun is supposed to be so hot it's almost immeasurable. How can we figure out how much heat is coming off those sun rays and the distance if we don't have the ability to even get all the way to the sun? And it's accepted and taught as if it's just a fact, and nobody thinks about the fact of how could you actually confirm that measurement.
Okay, so you're casting doubt on whether we know how far away the sun is.
Oh, I cast
Um,
that and plenty of other theories.
okay, I'll ask you to maybe bring up one or two other ones, but I just want to ask this thing about the sun real quick. Okay, so I'm just gonna like try to accept some of your positions for the sake of argument and ask follow-up questions. So if we can't know how far away the sun is, what would that validate or invalidate about like our knowledge of space? Like, do you believe the sun exists?
Of course, of course.
Do you
According,
believe like that the composition of the sun is what is generally what it is thought to be, or is that all speculation in your eyes?
no, I believe that what science has concluded the sun is correct. That yes, it's a giant ball of gas and flames and all that stuff. Yes, I completely agree. But to know how far away it actually is exactly, that doesn't seem like something which you can actually confirm. Just like confirming exactly, how fast maybe the moon is spinning when it's in orbit around the Earth. I don't see how you could confirm things like that,
Hmm.
because it gets to a point where there's certain points where you literally cannot see, the moon. So how can you be calculating how fast it's spinning? if it's said that the spin does not maintain the same speed.
Is it possible to like track the movements of the moon even when we can't see it
Uh,
directly?
Not that I know of.
Could you imagine a possible way? If you had like perfect technology, which we don't have, hypothetically, let me know. Would there be a way that you could think of with hypothetical perfect technology where you could somehow verify the position of the moon at any given time?
If you could have that, then possibly yes, but I don't believe we have that. And
But I
all
mean, what would be like an example of a device that could hypothetically be used? Because even without perfect technology, there's at least one thing that I'm thinking of that I'm pretty sure we have the capability to do, but I don't want to bring it up until I at least ask you if you could think of any
I
possible ways.
I can't think of anything. No.
Hmm. Couldn't they send like a robot to the moon or a satellite? Haven't they done that?
Well, I don't necessarily. I don't entirely trust NASA, so that's a whole nother argument I don't want to go down.
Um, I mean, I hope you don't mind if I ask because like it does have bearing on the rest of the argument. Forget about NASA for a second. What about like any other like government or private entities involved in space activity? I mean, aren't there a whole bunch of like privately run satellites and stuff like that, and a whole bunch of government entities and groups besides NASA involved in space exploration?
Yes, but as far as the exploration is gone, that I believe that can be confirmed would be maybe getting up to the space center and just to the outer orbits, not actually even really going out into space. And so for so many of these strong held opinions on Mars and this and that, and they can't even get to these places. Yeah, there is a Mars rover, but they haven't gotten it there.
Hypothetically, if they could get some kind of robot or like a satellite to the moon, would that be sufficient to track its movement at any given time,
Of course
including
it
its speed of like spinning and orbiting?
Of course it would be, but that's a big if and ands, and if they did this or did that. According to NASA's current policy, that the technology which they use to get to the moon is destroyed and is far too expensive to rebuild. So the whole argument of taking anything to the moon is kind of out the window.
Okay, so I'm just gonna take a wild guess here. You don't believe that humans ever landed on the moon either, right?
No, I don't.
Okay. I'm gonna try my best not to like present counter arguments to every individual claim you make, especially since I'm not an astronomer or like a professional scientist. I don't feel that would be the best way for me to handle this. Um, but so you do agree that if hypothetically a machine, a device could be sent to the moon, it could track the movement. So we agree on that. Do you think that that will ever be possible?
No, I don't. And recent scientists have said that we're kind of stuck within our. I can't remember what he said, but he said yes, we can make it to outer space in a sense, but they haven't had the ability to get past a certain degree. So if they can't get past this degree, and they're saying this now, and we're to believe that our cell phones, which have more technology in them than the space center did when we went to the moon, and we can't replicate that technology, I have to start asking, I have to start having some kind of doubts in the credibility of these organizations. I mean, your name is literally Skeptical Mantis, and it surprises me you're not more skeptical of some of these excuses or claims.
Well, the thing is that I'm not a professional scientist, so and I also don't actually feel that I could properly investigate this. I mean,
Well,
you're not a professional astronomer or a scientist either, right?
well,
Just for
here's
the
my,
audience.
but here's some expertise I do have. This is what leads me to more doubt. For those who don't know, I'm former military. and I spent some time on military installations, living on a couple of air bases. I spend a lot of time on runways and landing strips, and I've seen what it's like for anything which has a vertical takeoff with thrusters at the bottom. What the thrusters look like and what the ground looks like up under. Now, if you look at any of those photos, what they're claiming to be thrusters, I don't even see how that's possible. That those could have been actual thrusters because um, I was an ordnance mechanic, so I do understand something about mechanics and how some of these technical things work. Um, the fact that these things do not look like they have the ability to have thrust power, that they're saying these are the thrusters. There's no kind of burn or ash or anything on them. There's literally not even dust sitting on top of it after it lands on a dusty surface. But
Okay, so your
I don't know
whole
what
approach seems,
weird.
it seems to me, sorry to interrupt, but it seems to me I cannot rebut all these things because I don't have any expertise in this and I don't have any expertise that you have on this. My thinking though is I'm wondering if you seem to feel or think that the technology is not there to verify these things and it's all just speculative, right? Then why are you leaning so heavily towards the opposite being true?
Because if I'm able to see more and more examples that discredit argument, and I know that NASA spends billions and billions, and all these stations spend billions and billions of dollars saying they're floating out in space. We have no clue what the hell where this money is really going, and that's what I look at. We already know that most of our governments are corrupt in many senses. Now, it's always been kind of strange to me that we always put this disconnect on certain agencies. So we can know the CIA has done all the different things that they've done. We can know about COINTELPRO. We can know about the Monroe Doctrine through all these different areas. But we have a hard time having doubt that having any kind of question that our government could be doing something not that's not on the up and up that they could
Here's
be.
the thing. It's not that I don't doubt. Um, like I said, I'm agnostic about the existence of God because I feel that I can't verify it. Believe it or not, I'm agnostic on many things, more or less to different degrees. There are certain things that I have higher confidence in because I feel they can be verified. But again, I'm not an expert in this. And also, I would say I'm not personally invested in these questions and I'm not convinced, like these specific questions, although they're interesting. Like, if you convinced me that what you were saying was true through some kind of verification process, I would change my mind and I would agree with you.
Well,
But whereas it
just
seems that
wait.
you're telling me that you don't believe that it could be verified, so then you believe that, like, you believe the opposite, or maybe not the opposite, but you believe a contrary theory because you
Well,
believe that the mainstream theories can't be verified. And that
well,
doesn't really
no,
make
no, no.
sense to me.
Well, let me clarify. It's not just automatically taking the opposite theory. That's what we have to clarify. That's
Or an
not.
alternative theory. It doesn't have to be
It,
opposite, but
it's not just automatically switching on a dime. It's not like, oh, I'm a Lakers fan and now I'm a Clippers fan. What I've done is I've did a lot of research and going into the claims of what people are saying and listening to both sides of the argument. And that's all I've done. As I've listened to more of the arguments on the other side, it started making more sense, certain things which I was seeing and reading. Now, most people who automatically have no question or doubt about any of the moon landing or any of those things never take the time to actually debunk some of the other information which is brought out. They'll just go at flat earthers and all that instead of actually looking at people who maybe not even be talking about flat earth, but are saying that that NASA is not being on the up and up with us.
okay. Yeah, that's easy for me to believe in some ways that government agencies are lying. They lie all the time. But again, I don't see how that could verify your belief in alternative theories because I'm hearing you say that you listen to both sides of the argument, you said, right? But the thing is, correct me if I'm wrong, again, not an expert, but even among mainstream scientists, I don't think there's necessarily like one side that they all agree on, and then that there's another side that somehow contradicts them where they're all united, right? Like there's probably some general mainstream views that are kind of accepted. Then there's aspects that are debated about, right, where they could differ and they have their reasons. And then there's a whole bunch of alternative theories, right? It's not just like two sides. It's
Well,
actually like a multi-sided
here's
thing. And then the flat earthers and all these, sorry, just
a
to
good
finish
point
this
here.
point, the flat earthers and many of these like people who like challenge the mainstream narratives about the nature of space and stuff like that, like they are a very diverse group of people with diverse beliefs. So it's really not like two sides of an argument where you could say, oh, well, I listened to both sides. You know, like there is a wide variety, right, of
Well, here,
beliefs about this.
let me cut that then, because there, I feel like you're being a little disingenuous, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because you're saying you're taking both sides like a literal both sides. Come on, dude. Let's be smart in that. Let's not play word games. When I'm saying both sides, I'm talking about all different kinds of forms of argument. Anybody who's listened to my content on any of my channels know I don't just go to one person. I don't just listen to one professor. I listen to multitudes of professors. Another thing is the standpoint which you have, and which many people like you have. This is the standpoint which many people like myself have had for 30 to almost 40 years. So it's for me, yes, we're doing more research to look into stuff. You are just leaning on what you've been taught and told, and you've never questioned any of these other things. And so now you're putting all the onus on me to prove science when really you should just be doing more research. I mean, I'm not here to argue for the sake of science. I believe science is, and if you look at it to its core, science, the actual word science means to know. Most of science is full of theories. And let's just be honest, it's mostly theories, man.
Marcus, I think you may be misunderstanding my position because I already told you that if what you believe could be shown, I'd change my mind and agree with you. I'm not a scientist and I don't spend much of my time thinking about space, to be quite honest. If the earth was
God.
flat, my political views would still remain pretty much the same. I'd want communism to take over the flat earth. I don't care if the earth is a cube or a triangle. I mean, it's interesting. If it was
Yeah,
proven tomorrow that the earth was a cube, I'd be like, yo, that's surprising. Cool. Like, yo, I'm not invested in this, Marcus, but you, like, I'm rather agnostic about this. Do you
I,
understand that? I'm not
yeah,
just like believing everything that mainstream scientists say. Do you get that?
I get that you might be agnostic about this issue, but I'm just a little just questioning how much of science are you, or how much of the mainstream narrative are you actually skeptical of? That's all I'm saying.
I'm telling you that I'm not even invested
I'm not talking
in.
about this issue. I'm talking about overall.
If I felt that it was something that was more directly relevant, I like to political stuff that I could affect on Earth, like then I'd be more interested in looking into it. But honestly, like I said, if you proved tomorrow that the Earth was flat or the Earth was a cube, I'd be fascinated. I'd love to hear your explanation, and I'd be like, okay, this is a new explanation. Cool. But like you seem to be very set on one side of this debate, and you seem convinced that the mainstream narratives cannot be, not just that they're doubtful, but you seem to be expressing that they can't even be like verified or like bolstered through evidence and experimentation. So doesn't that kind of leave us in a stalemate where the best thing to do is just say you don't know, unless you're going to have a way to verify a different theory, an alternative theory?
Well, the thing is, and we have to go back to what we're actually talking about here. My narrative is not to prove, I mean, if the earth is round or flat or any of those things. It's that I know that I have found many instance where I can find deception or things which are incorrect or wrong or that can be proven wrong. So therefore, I am going to have doubt or skepticism as what comes from the mouths of these people. That's all I'm saying. It's kind
And
of like
that's totally fine.
if you're with somebody and you're whatever spouse, and they're always cheating on you, and they're always lying to you. I mean, at a certain point, you got to be like, I might still love you, but I can't listen to nothing you're saying.
You can't listen to anything they're saying
I can't trust what you're saying.
because they lied in the past.
No, it's because you constantly lie. One
Okay.
lie
If a
here.
person constantly lies to you, is it at all possible that they could tell you the truth about something?
Of course.
Even if they've lied every
Yeah,
single thing they've ever said to you, the
yeah,
next thing they say could still be true, right?
yes,
Theoretically, or
yes,
even partially true, right? And partially false.
yes.
And would it be possible that this person, hypothetically, your spouse lied to you a million times, cheated on you a million times, and then they say, oh, but actually, I wasn't doing anything bad. I was at this place doing this very innocent thing. And then they provide evidence to your satisfaction. Would you believe them, even though they've lied in the past?
If they're able to show that evidence to my satisfaction, then yes, of course, I would
Even
be.
though they've lied so much.
But here's the thing: when it comes to dealing with research and evidence, if the evidence is compelling, it's just like when I deal with politics. Um, those most of y'all know I consider myself a leftist. Also, I if the information is coming from, I don't care, Tucker Carlson, it doesn't mean I'm not going to take in the information if it can be proven and verified. For me, it doesn't matter where the message comes from if it can be verified. But if you have a spotty track record, then it's only common sense and intelligence that I should scrutinize every single thing you say to me.
Agreed. Yeah, if people have a bad reputation, they should be further scrutinized. I agree with that. But still, the point is that hypothetically, even in that situation you gave with a cheating spouse, even no matter how much of a liar they were and no matter how much of a bad track record they had, they could still hypothetically verify to you that they were telling the truth on a certain occasion or another. Whereas you seem to dismiss the possibility that the mainstream accepted theories about space could even be verified, even hypothetically.
Would you like my response? The reason why is because, just like I said before, I look at that information and I go back and try to verify it. And when I start seeing holes in it, I have to not accept it. Now, and what I'm saying is, I don't believe many other people are doing that when they're hearing this information. They're literally just taking it verbatim and not questioning it. Whereas I question every single thing. It's not saying that every single thing they say, I say it's wrong, but I question every single thing because they cannot be trusted in their word. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, that's totally fine. Um, can I just ask maybe one more question about this, and then maybe we could try to get back on track?
Yes.
Um, okay. So yeah, you totally have the right to question as much as you want. I don't see any problem with that. Is there an alternative school of thought explaining the nature of space that you generally agree with?
Um, like I saw in the comments earlier, I believe Stevie said it. Um, Astronomy is something that's been believed in, since before, modern science has started, kind of looking at it from their perspective. Um, that said, that's not necessarily talking about, space exploration. It's also in the Bible. It talks about one of the tribes of Israel. One of their abilities being able to decipher and read things in the stars, to be able to decipher location, times, also for travel across the seas, and various different things. So um, I do I do accept that there are, explanations, but do I spend a lot of time focusing on that aspect? Not really.
So you spend most of your time just trying to cast doubt on the mainstream narratives and not actually
No,
proposing an alternative viable theory and trying to verify it?
No, what I actually spend my time focusing on is trying to teach people who I believe who are Israelites or and possible Israelites about what the Bible is saying, the message to them, and I try to warn people of prophecy. Um, I'll use the colloquial name Jesus Christ for now, but Jesus Christ, it says Jesus Christ is the spirit of prophecy. So that's what I focus on mostly. I don't really focus on Big Dipper and all that stuff.
Okay, but I'm asking if you, I don't want to be too repetitive here, but I don't feel that, I don't really feel that you're like addressing what I'm asking. I'm trying to ask or just get you to agree if it's true and clarify that you're not actually proposing any positive alternative theories about the nature of space. You're just, but then aren't you kind of are because you agree with the biblical concept, right? That's your primary guide here, the
Yes.
biblical concept of space.
Mhm.
All right. Well, earlier you just said that, correct me if I'm wrong. I think you said that the biblical, all right, you said that, sorry about that. You said that beforehand, even before modern science, many ancient societies had studied space and had different theories about space, right?
Yes.
Before modern science.
Yeah.
Also, long before the Bible, right?
No. Well, yes, I'm sure.
I mean, yeah, I'm pretty
But
sure that like ancient societies
go ahead.
had some decent amount of understanding of astronomy. They had calendars where they could, map the seasons, not
Well,
just like year to year, but actually the movement of the like different planets and stuff like that.
well, somebody. Well, I actually am. I actually do know quite a bit about this subject. The earliest that was on record would have been the Sumerians. Now they had a different type of calendar and various different belief systems. Yes, but that would have been the first that's on record.
So is this like modern Iraq? I'm not an ancient
Yes,
historian.
that would be modern.
Okay, so the cradle of civilization, right? Some of the oldest societies that we know of,
Yes,
or probably the oldest.
yes, which the Sumerians would biblically be known as like the area of where the Tower of Babel would be, or Babylon.
All right. So even the Old Testament wasn't around, at least not in its finished form, during the time of the Sumerians, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So they were able to study space and have some knowledge of it even long before the existence of any of the Bible, right?
Yes.
Okay. So then why do you feel that the biblical concept of space and the assertion that ancient Israelites had knowledge of space, why is it that you seem to think that that verifies something about the Bible being like a special or like divine book when many other non-biblical societies before the Bible already knew about space?
I don't think I said that.
All right, I don't want to misconstrue what you're saying, so maybe I
I
misunderstood you. What part did I
really
misunderstand?
what you did was you took me saying that astronomy is in the Bible and that Sumerians had it, that they had an understanding of it before, as to one of my arguments for believing in the Bible. I just said that that's something that's in the Bible. I never said that that's one of my foundational arguments. We have to make sure we listen to what we're saying and not try to jump ahead or add on.
Yeah, I'm trying to do my best to listen to you and not misconstrue your statement. So sorry if I have twisted what you said. That's why I'm asking you to verify, is this what you actually said or did I misunderstand? Because I got the impression that you were saying that you had confidence in the Bible and in Hebrew Israelism, at least it was implied, because the Hebrews of the Bible had knowledge of space. And you seem to see that as
I
like
see that.
validation.
I see that, but that is not. That would never. I put it this way. That would never be something that I would lean on in an argument to try to prove my beliefs on the Bible.
Okay. Okay. I think maybe we can get back to the reasons you were giving. So you said if you don't mind, if you have anything else to say about this, go ahead. Otherwise, I'm going to just recap your first and second reason that you gave, and then we could move on if there's nothing more we want to say about that. So you said first, you grew up in like a biblical culture, family, society, somewhat, and you grew
Yeah.
up believing in the Bible, and that influenced you to believe it now. And your
Well,
second reason for
I would
believing in God, go ahead.
I wouldn't say necessarily that that's what it influenced me to believe it now, because we got to remember, at this time now, I'm 40 years old. A lot of time has taken place from me being a kid, going from different churches and going to different mass sessions. There's a lot of me going to church and then not going to church, and then beliefs changing around. So I don't base my belief and understanding um, now off of my childhood. I mean, it had a little bit to do with it, but a lot of my questions I had in the church, which weren't getting answered, is why I left the church.
Okay, so you were raised around a biblical belief as a child, but not Hebrew Israelism, correct?
No, not at all.
Okay, cool. Do you mind if I ask what kind of denomination, or if you could just briefly describe like what was the early beliefs that you were exposed to?
I would have been growing up. I was mostly a Baptist, and then occasionally I went from Baptist church to AME Zion church, back and forth, not really switching, depending on which family member I was going to church with, and then occasionally I would go to Catholic Mass also.
Okay, got it. Mm, when did you start moving towards Hebrew Israelism?
I would say roughly about a year and a half ago.
Oh, that's pretty recent. So before that, you were going back and forth between AME
No,
and Baptist and Catholic, or not anymore?
I would say I was basically consider myself a non-denominational. I
Okay.
go to church very regularly. I still had the faith and belief, but I didn't necessarily follow. Well, believe I had the belief and all that, but I wasn't following. I wasn't going to church. I was just trying to live like a good Christian.
Okay. So just to recap, the first reason you gave, you were exposed to biblical beliefs as a child, although you have changed your beliefs a lot ever since then. And then the second reason you gave for believing in God was because um,
Well, I never.
intelligent design and yeah,
Oh yeah.
intelligent design and fine tuning argument, seeing that you feel the world is somehow designed in a way that is suitable for life, and that couldn't be a coincidence, is I think what you said, right?
To sum it up,
Okay, and specifically, the intelligent design aspect has to do within the Earth's atmosphere
yes.
and not the rest of space, which you have casted a lot of doubt on the nature of space. And we
Well,
already explored that a lot.
I would prefer to say I cast doubt on our understanding of it.
Right. Got it. Got it. Thanks for clarifying. Okay. Maybe I can ask like one more question about the intelligent design aspect within the Earth's atmosphere, and then we could narrow it down more stuff about the Bible and then Hebrew Israelism specifically, if you're cool with that.
Okay.
So when you say that within the Earth's atmosphere, it seems intelligently designed, what percentage, if you had to give like a percentage, what percentage of the space within the Earth's atmosphere is suitable for human life?
I mean, I guess that's a complicated question. I'll try to do my best to answer it and hopefully not seem like I'm dodging. But I that's kind of a tough question because I don't know. It all depends on human beings in general. If we decide to be selfish, as certain people who have decided to rise to the top, certain nations decide to commodify more the resources instead of sharing the resources, instead of finding more ways for the earth to replenish itself naturally. We've went to things which destroy the earth. For instance, um, when we pull shale oil out of the earth, not only is it bad for those communities, not only is it bad for the atmosphere when we put it into the atmosphere, but it's also bad for the Earth's core itself because it's taking that lubrication out of the tectonic plates. And so, if you're taking that lubrication out of the tectonic plates, it leaves for a higher ability for more things like earthquakes. And so there's so many different things which we don't even look at how we're just destroying the earth. So we limit our own abilities, or we have limited our own abilities.
Okay, so environmental destruction has limited the amount of space within the Earth's atmosphere that is suitable for human beings, right?
Yes.
Okay, understood. Is that mostly because of modern technology and modern like industry and all that? So,
Yes.
all right, let's take it back. Let's take it back like 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, if you want. You know, let's bring it to Jesus' time since we're talking about the Bible. I mean, I don't know if
Let's
Jesus
go more
existed.
than
That's a
2,000.
whole nother argument. But just for the sake of argument, let's take it back 2,000 years ago, before there was like all this heavy industry and pollution and all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
At that time, 2,000 years ago, what percentage of the space within the Earth's atmosphere was actually suitable for life? I know you can't exactly measure it, but can you give
But
me
if I had to give
a
a
general
percentage,
idea? Is that fair?
you sound like a percentage maybe.
If
Um,
you could give like a percentage, like a very rough, like
okay.
10%, 50%, 80, 90%.
I would say outside of course, because we can't literally live on water. But as far
Exactly. And that's most
as
of the Earth's surface, right?
yeah, I mean, excluding that part and excluding the highest of the highest Alps where you can't breathe, I would say roughly about 40% of the Earth is inhabitable. But at the same time, we have the ability to expand in upwards. So the since you have the ability to expand and build upwards, it's hard to factor in that dynamic also because we're not just talking about a 2D plane which we're building across. We're talking about a three-dimensional plane.
Okay, so just if I understand you correctly, you're saying that we could build upwards, like what, skyscrapers and stuff like that?
Yeah, which we do now.
Right. Okay. So that's basically on the Earth's surface, though, right? So there's a certain amount where we could build upwards, and then there's a section of like towards the, I guess, the edge of the atmosphere where we obviously can't live, even if we were like, had the ability to get there.
Hmm.
Then we said that most of the Earth's surface is covered in water, and we can't live in water. As humans, we can't, at least. Many animals can.
But in actuality, I mean, here's just because I'm always thinking of different ideas, and I feel like if if the powerful, and just saying all the power, all the people who've been in power, if they didn't want to hoard all of the decision making and all of the possibility to get ideas out there and allow more freedom of information between some of the lesser people and let some of these ideas flow upward, then we can use more of our collective mental space to actually create more environments. And I just feel that because of there's so much greed in the world as a whole, that goes counter to the narrative of doing things which would be beneficial for us all as a world population.
Okay, so you're saying that with better technological development and stuff like that, we'd be able to develop more habitable spaces within the Earth's atmosphere, correct?
Correct. Another
Okay,
thing.
fair enough. Hold up, but
Yeah. Okay.
my whole hypothetical was I was asking you like 2,000 years ago, before the development of heavy industry, which has limited some of the places we could live due to pollution, right? So I'm trying to eliminate that kind of pollution angle
Uh huh.
and just think about like 1,000 or 2,000 years ago. I'm just trying to like make the point or see if we can agree that even before the pollution, like heavy industry destruction of the earth, most without technology, we can't live in water. we can't live like deep in the earth's under the earth, right? Like you can like dig tunnels and stuff like that, but like most of the earth's crust, like you can't go that deep, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
As of
Like you
now,
can't go to the core, right?
and that's what I was kind of alluding to in my argument. If more of the elites allow for more of an environment for freedom of information to flow around, then we can actually do more. I believe we could go deeper. But
With current or future technology.
yes, and
All
that's
right, but I'm trying to eliminate that aspect because if I understand your argument correctly, you're saying that within the Earth's atmosphere, the space seems to be intelligently designed by like a higher being, right? But then when I'm asking you how much of it is habitable, you're saying that human beings could hypothetically develop technology to inhabit more of the space. But I mean, that
what
doesn't, something's not clicking here. Do you see my confusion or no? Should I try to explain more?
I think what you're kind of misunderstanding is you're looking at it as if he just the intelligent creator just put everything down and said, okay, live everything, go. There's a reason why we have intelligence and why we build buildings, why we do all of these things. Part of that intelligent design of the space is to give intelligence also to those people to be able to build up societies and things. And if you don't even really have to go back 2,000 or 1,000 years ago, most of the pollution and damage to the environment is literally happened like the last maybe 300 years.
Right, right. I'm just saying that with or without pollution, with or without modern technology, the fact is that we have not yet been able to inhabit even a majority of the space, right? Because even with the tallest skyscrapers, we haven't even gone that like deep and like far, right? Up towards the edge of the atmosphere. So even with the most modern technology, that's still not even the case. So I don't understand how you're trying to make this argument where you're saying the space is intelligently designed, but then you're kind by a higher being, but then you're kind of like saying, oh well, it could be
let's let's
habitable if humans
let,
figured
let's
out the
do let's do this
technology. That
because
doesn't make sense to me.
let's do this because what I feel like you're doing is you're asking the question in the most cryptic, vague way, and you're not being completely clear with what you're asking. Ask the direct, clear question, and I will give you a direct, clear answer. You're asking me about what do I think the possible space and the this, and when you asked about possible, then that's possible of what we can do. Also, I can't eliminate that out. You got to ask a better
I'm
question.
not saying
A better
possible in the hypothetical deep future with like all these different technological advances. I'm talking about like now with our most modern technology or even back in the biblical times. I'm just trying to establish that we can't live in most of the ocean and like
what
underwater. We can't
we never.
live on even a lot of the earth's surface is
I got
like not necessarily habitable to us,
I
right?
got a
Like all
question.
the
I
ancient
got a
early
question.
societies. Sorry, do you mind if I just like finish making this point? I'm sorry. I
I
just
got a
want to say that
I,
like
no,
go
no, no,
ahead, go ahead.
hold on, because I have to ask this question because
Sure.
this is where I think we're butting heads and you're not getting it. Do you think that the planet was designed for every single person for us to live on it for eternity?
For us to live on it for eternity?
Or for however long allotted time? Is that what you're asking?
I'm trying to make a point about space.
And
Space and matter. The majority of space within the Earth's atmosphere is just not habitable for humans, even with the best
that,
technology. I don't want to beat this
well,
horse to death here. Maybe
and
we'll just have to agree to disagree and move on, but I
I
think I'm making a very simple point.
let me lay this out so you can understand it. This is why I don't think you're understanding because you're not asking the question clearly. You're asking the question about if you think that if we start reaching some limited capacity, that proves some kind of argument that you're trying to make very cryptically. What the Bible does not teach that. The Bible talks about an end point. It talks about famine and destruction and all of those things coming towards the end. So the Bible doesn't even try to lay down the narrative which you're trying to argue. That's what I'm trying to get
I'm
across.
not trying to argue against the biblical narrative necessarily. I'm trying to argue against a simple point that you're
Well,
making that I think is clearly easy to
you gotta,
dispel, whether the Bible says it or not.
no, skeptical. But if I'm telling you my understanding comes from a biblical understanding, then how do you say, well, let's not talk about the biblical understanding, which leads you to believe that? What you're
I'm
doing,
talking about your
you're asking me
presentation of your biblical understanding. So
and that's
yes, I'm addressing what you're saying, and I know it's based on the Bible. I get that.
but
But,
you're right.
I could speak to 1,000 Christians and they'll all have a slightly or very different, biblical understanding. So me as a
And
non-Christian,
that's
basically,
what's
I'm
important.
just going to go with your explanation and address your interpretation instead of, because I don't have my own interpretation of the Bible really, and I could tell you why later on. But, like I'm trying to actually agree to a lot of your points just for the sake of argument, just so that I don't have to argue against 1,000 points, because I think that's where a lot of the atheist and Christian debates go wrong. They try to argue 1,000 points at the same time. I'm really trying to work hard to like zero in on some of these main points that you've given so far and try to dig deep into those certain points. Is that fair? Or does that make
Yes, I'm gonna
sense?
put the question to the chat real quick. Everybody in the chat, if you feel like he's asking these questions clearly and concisely, please give me a 1. If you feel like I'm just misunderstanding or I'm not giving him clear answers, then put a 2 in the chat. Because I feel like you're asking questions to get to a certain narrative with the presupposition of thinking you know what I believe. And
I'm only basing what I
let,
think you
let me
believe based on what you say.
let me finish. You
Go
went up here
ahead.
talking about a whole bunch of a bunch of Christians think this way and that way, and I can go into what I believe. We haven't even etched out what the hell I believe, and you don't know what I believe, and you're doing a whole. And we went for an hour and 8 minutes, and you still haven't gotten into what the hell I actually even believe for you to try to push me into whatever lane you're trying to push me in. Listen, I'm perfectly fine with explaining stuff to people, but if you're trying to do this in a disingenuous way as some way to try to catch me on something, then you got to do better than this, because you're not even being clear with your own questions.
Okay, Marcus, I'm not trying to trip you up or confuse you or obscure the issue. I'm going to try to ask this in a different way, and maybe if we can't get through at this point, we could move on to another point if you prefer. Let me try to ask this in a different way. I'm going to try to attack this in 2 very simple questions. So the first question, I'll keep it as simple as possible, and I think I did already ask this to you. What percentage of the space within Earth's atmosphere, all the way from the edge of the atmosphere, all the way to the core of the Earth, is actually habitable to humans?
And let me ask this question in return. What is the relevance of the question?
Does it matter? I mean, I
Yes,
could tell you what I think the
it matters.
relevance of the question is, but are you afraid to put a number on it, like a certain amount of space? Because before you said 40%, right? More or less? That is what you said, right? Before?
You're not answering what is the relevance of this question. What does this, if let's say it's 0, what does that
So
prove?
you're answering my question with a question. All right. So hypothetically, if you said 0, what would I say?
Your
All
question,
right. If you said 0,
I said, let's say it's 0. It can be 0.
right,
It's
hypothetically.
really, to me, it's really an irrelevant question because it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't apply or prove or disprove anything about my beliefs at all. So I don't understand.
Okay, Marcus, I'm hearing you say that you feel the space within the Earth's atmosphere is uniquely designed intelligently for human life. And it seems clear to me that the vast majority of space within the Earth's atmosphere is not suitable for human life or even other forms of life, right? We are not aware of life like in the Earth's core, right? Like maybe I think there might be germs there. I don't know if they've even verified that. Again, I'm not a scientist. The vast majority of the space in the Earth is not habitable. And I'm
Okay,
going to try to ask
let's say you're
one
right.
more time in a
Let's
different
say you're
way.
right.
And then if it doesn't work, we can move to a different topic.
Let's just say you're right. What's your point?
My point is that if the majority of space within the Earth's atmosphere is not habitable for human life, then to say that it's intelligently designed for human life does not make sense.
And that's what I wanted you to just get to. You asked this You
I thought
asked,
it was quite
well,
obvious.
no, the reason why I have to explain this to you is because you, from an atheist point of view, you're not following along with a biblical narrative. A biblical narrative is, yes, you had the Garden of Eden. It was created to be great. Things were going to go down, and it was going to come to an ending point. So in the ending point, yes, you can't sit there and say, well, isn't this designed? Well, if it's designed that it's supposed to end, then you're missing that whole point. The Bible,
Okay, okay.
the
I think
Bible
I get
narrative
this.
explains that it's not meant to just go on forever. So for you trying to make that argument, that doesn't go against what the creator literally says in the Bible. He's saying he's going to create it, and he's literally saying he's going to destroy it. I mean, according, you got to remember the Bible narrative. What happened in the flood? I know you don't believe in the Bible, but let's say it's entirely true. That means he killed everybody but 8 people on the planet.
Okay, so I think I may understand you now a bit, because correct me if I'm wrong. I think you're saying that back during the Garden of Eden time, that during that time, the majority or all of the space on Earth was habitable for humans. And then because God has destroyed it for various different reasons, or
Oh,
whatever the reasons
people,
are.
man have destroyed it.
Okay, okay, men have destroyed it. Because of that, um, that is the reason that it's no longer habitable and in many of the places on Earth, and that's why you feel that my point is irrelevant.
Well, also there are certain prophecies in the Bible which tell of certain place. This place, which is that was lush before, is going to be desolate. This place is never going to be inhabited again. This place is going to be destroyed. So it goes through the Bible talking about how different places are going to be destroyed. And for a couple of quick references, two quick ones that you can look up the archaeology still to this day. The location of Sodom and Gomorrah, which there's sulfur and ashes still to this day. You can literally pick up a sulfur rock and just set it on fire right now. Also, Pompeii. In the Bible, it literally talked about those places and it commanded a judgment on them, and both of them are destroyed. It literally talks about certain areas are going to dry up. And that's part of what goes on in the Negev area when you start talking about parts of Israel and Palestine. The Bible doesn't say, oh, it's going to be perfect in perpetuity. It doesn't say that. It literally talks about that they're going to destroy the ones who destroy the earth. I mean, there's nothing in there that tells you that it's just like, boom, however it's set, it's going to go that way forever. There are prophecies that you're not understanding.
Okay, Marcus, believe it or not, you're not the first Christian I've heard talk about prophecies. But I think if you want, I could ask you some question about prophecies and archaeology, and you think the Bible is historically accurate and what the implications of that would be. I think if you don't mind, we could talk about that a little bit.
Let's go.
Let me see though. Before I ask you that, damn, there was something else I wanted to ask, but maybe I'll have to come back to it because it kind of slipped my mind. All right, I want to ask you, if it was shown that many or most or all of the beliefs, or sorry, no, let me try that again. If it was shown that many or most or all of the historical and archaeological information in the Bible was accurate, if that was shown without a doubt somehow, even to my level of evidence or standard of evidence, where I could even be convinced, hypothetically, would it be possible in that situation that the Bible could be highly historically accurate, yet still not the word of God and not divine in any way? Is that possible?
I would have a hard time believing that or accepting that narrative because of the fact of even like some of the most prominent skepticals. I'll give you one example, Bart Ehrman, who is a big time atheist who debates a lot of Christians, millions of views, writes all kind of books. He will admit that the Torah itself is over 2,500 years old. I'm talking about the actual like scrolls written, because a lot of people in modern day, they get this impression that, oh, the Bible's only this old. They don't realize that there were scribes who were literally writing down stuff next to them the whole time. I mean, even back to the days of Moses. So it wasn't like it was just this oral tradition the whole time, and nobody was etching anything down or writing anything down. It was written down, and then over time they would just keep compiling that information. That's
Okay,
what happened.
all I'm trying to ask is, even if the Bible was highly historically accurate, and that could be proven without a doubt to both of our standards of evidence, where we could both agree on that, would I be justified in believing that this was the word of God just because it was highly historically accurate?
Um, I would think that you'd be justified in believing that's the word of God. I feel like anything that is, I feel like if it's literally telling you of event after event after event, and it can be documented throughout history that these events went down and these books were written thousands of years before the events, then I would have a hard time dismissing that away as something else.
All right, but we're talking about historical and archaeological accuracy. You're talking about future events in the
I'm
terms of
talking.
prophecy. I'm not sure that this is the same thing, right? I think
Well,
maybe we should discuss prophecy
well,
and historical accuracy a little separately, if you think that's fair.
what I'm talking about is no, because what I'm trying to explain first is because they're combined. There's parts that are history now that were prophesied hundreds of years before they happened. That's what I'm saying. So when we're talking
Okay.
about history, I'm talking about that scrolls written sometimes 500, 600, 1,000 years before talked about events which actually happened directly the way the Bible said they would happen. That's what I mean by prophecy. So I'm not talking about something that can come that we can look to it and say, well, maybe this is it. I'm talking about things that have happened, which that were predicted.
Okay, so you're specifically talking about the predictions. I didn't realize that. I thought it sounded like you were talking about historical and archaeological accuracy in the sense of talking about things that came before the Bible was written, not predictions of stuff that came later. So you're really focused on prophecy here.
Yeah.
So I misunderstood you.
Like for instance, I started off doing a lot of research back into ancient Samaria. Um, like for those who don't know, I'm former military, and I've traveled and been to a lot of these areas which I talk about on this channel. So I've gotten to actually see things firsthand. So when I have somebody, some urban apologists who will get on and they'll say, "Oh, well, no, the images look like this." No, I've seen the images, so don't lie and pretend or use tint filters to try to change it up to shade your argument. I've seen the originals. So when looking at all of this different information, I'm able to like literally go on tours and go to where Pompeii is. I was stationed in Italy. I was stationed in Sigonella in Sicily. So I've been there. I've been to the area where some of these cathedrals later on when the church start writing different things. I've been to certain parts of Egypt and all these other, I won't go into detail everywhere I've been, but I've been to these places to be able to look at archaeology, some of it firsthand, and then some of it just with people who are experts in the fields. A lot of these archaeologists are atheists, but they will attest to the historical facts that they see in the Bible. And in the Bible, if you look chapters before, somebody was predicting that these things were going to happen.
And so these atheists that agree with many of these historical and facts within the Bible, do they also agree with your assertion that those things were prophesied in advance? Because those are two different claims.
Yes, but they don't, many of them say they don't understand how, or they don't really accept that it was like some of them will say, well, maybe this was just all chance, and so maybe they were guessing, and maybe they just knew the political situations, and so they were just throwing out predictions, and they just got lucky a couple of times or a bunch of times.
Okay, so you're saying that even though they don't know how, many of these atheistic historians agree that the Bible has successfully prophesied things way in advance?
Yes, there are plenty that
Really?
attest to that.
There are plenty? Would you
Yes,
say it would be like consensus in the field, maybe, or like a high, like a majority, or half, or less?
to be honest, I would say maybe probably around uh 40-60 split.
Okay, just trying to get an
Uh,
idea. Because either way, like the
40.
popularity of an idea doesn't make it true or not, right? But I'm just trying to establish that, within even the experts of a field, that there are widely differing views, right?
Yeah,
And it's not like a consensus agreeing with you, right?
yeah, and I'm saying this also of atheists specifically, not including ones who are believers.
Okay. Why do you think that? Actually, no, I don't want to go down that road. Not yet. That because I already think I know what you're gonna say, and it's kind of gonna get stuck. Let's see. Um. Okay, so because it was prophesied in advance, that shows that the Bible is somehow a divine book or the Word of God, right? To you,
I take it
um,
that way.
if it could be hypothetically shown that. All right, this is my question. This is my question. Do we have a very clear and exact idea of when each book of the Bible was written and how it was compiled from the Old Testament all the way to the New Testament?
Yes.
Really, a very accurate
Well,
concept.
they literally have. Now I don't know personally. I don't know a whole lot about how they carbon date or if they carbon date or whichever way that they do the researching on trying to date the scrolls. But many, or I guess the professionals in the field, have given dates which are accepted in the community in those archaeological communities, that these are the acceptable dates of when they believed that they were actually constructed.
And would you say that it's generally very accurate? Like, what would you say? It's like within 5 to 10 years of when it was written, within 5 to 10 months of when it was written, 5 to 10 days, 5 to 10 decades, centuries. Like, how accurate do you think
I
this is?
would
Just to get an
say
idea.
it's and that's one thing which I'll have to admit I can't say exactly how accurate they are. I know that from what I guesstimate from biblical understanding, because it's not like it literally tells you exactly what year it is. And then sometimes even when it is saying a year, you got to remember they're going on a Hebraic calendar, not a Gregorian calendar, which we go on. So that gets even harder to try to determine and figure out because
Don't you think God should have maybe dated it in a way where we could actually verify this later on? Like,
well,
if you read a news article today and it doesn't have a like a date of when it was written, you would be like you would say this was BS,
well,
Like that would just be so unprofessional. Just not having a date
but
already means you can't really understand what's going on.
well, here's one thing that you're missing about the Bible. You're having the impression that the Bible is literally meant for everybody to clearly understand it. That is not the point of the Bible. It is
It's
not.
only for the chosen ones to understand, right?
Well, what it is the the Israelites, they knew, and I guess God knew that they were going to not follow His commandments, and they were going to be cast away in all in every nation. And He knew that their kingdom was going to be trampled down, all their riches were going to be stolen, and their Bible and everything was going to be taken. And if you have one culture who thinks one way and a complete different understanding of dates, months, times, slangs, all that, and you have another culture which is completely different, pick up that same book, that understanding gets very different. And it literally says the Bible is written in parables, allegories, and dark sayings. The reason is because they knew that eventually an enemy was going to take over that stuff, and they didn't want them to be able to understand it all.
Okay, but the chosen ones, right? The Hebrew Israelites, whatever you want to call them, the elect or whatever, right? Am I saying the wrong thing, Marcus? Because I see you
Just,
laughing. I'm
I
trying to
just like
understand
to,
you because I've heard
I
this talk
like to
before.
get, I just don't like to. I like to get away from looking at it that way because there's a bad stigma on the way a lot of Hebrew Israelites portray themselves, and I just kind of don't want that stigma.
I mean,
Um,
but isn't that what they believe? That they're the elect, that they are the chosen ones,
this is
correct?
this is what I will say. I believe that according to the Bible, that Israelites are the elect. Now, Am I certain who exactly is the elect? Or even if you are Israelite, it does not say that that's a guaranteed salvation. It literally says 2/3 of Israel will perish. So the cockiness and arrogance that a lot of them have, I don't want to convey that at all. That's all I'm saying.
But you believe that you're part of the elect, right?
I believe that I'm an Israelite. That doesn't necessarily mean I'm part of the elect.
Okay, because you say that 2/3 of them will be, what did you say, destroyed, or that they won't be saved or something?
It says that they won't get salvation, so they'll have to go through the second death.
Okay, do you see that? I'm just trying to get us on the same page of trying to clarify that there is a certain chosen group, whoever they may be,
Mm-hmm.
and they are the ones who are intended to understand the Bible. That's what you're saying.
Well, because if you read it in the Bible, God, we'll just say God for now. God literally says, "Israel is mine inheritance." There's verses in there which tell you that basically He set up deities or gods for other nations to follow. That Israel was His nation that He chose, His portion. So, I mean, if that's what the Scripture says, that's what I have to believe.
Okay, I'm not even disputing that. I'm agreeing with this just for the sake of argument, that you believe that there's a certain group, whoever they may be, that is supposed to be able to understand the Bible, and God made the Bible for them specifically to understand, right?
Yep.
That's what you believe. So whoever that group is, however you interpret it, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
that chosen group, whoever they are,
Mm-hmm. I'm
shouldn't
listening.
they be able to like know when these things were written? Because the whole question that took us in this
No,
direction was me asking
no, they won't.
if, like, why we can't know when all these
I'll,
things were written. Because
I'll,
correct me
I'll
if I'm
tell
wrong, won't we have to know when the certain books of the Bible were written to know whether it was really prophesying something in advance or whether it was written
no,
afterwards?
no. You don't have to know when it was written. Well, I guess to know if that's the angle you're looking for, to just try to figure out how to not believe it. I mean, if yeah, then that would be your angle.
I'm not
But
trying to
know
figure out
what
how
we
to not
know,
believe it, Marcus.
know what
Look,
I'm.
for something to be a prophecy, it has to be written before the events happen, correct?
But
That's what a
but but
prophecy is.
but okay. But here, listen to me for a second. You got to understand the way that you went at this whole approach. We went now for almost an hour and a half, and all you've done is interrogation type questions on what you think would discredit the Bible instead of trying to hear why I believe in the Bible. You literally haven't went into actually why you don't believe in the Bible. You're just trying to find what you can pick apart in my beliefs.
Bro,
And
you never asked
like
me
I
to.
feel like
I,
for
I
an hour and
told
a
you
half,
beforehand.
I feel like for an hour and a half, you have not done a very good job at it. But you can continue.
Okay, Marcus, I told you in advance that I would mostly be asking you about your belief and that I wouldn't try not to focus too much on my own beliefs unless you asked me. And you have not asked me until
So
just now. Do you
my
realize
my
that?
my question: why do you have so much doubt in the Bible?
Okay, I'll try to answer that, but I don't want us to forget that I still want to establish after I try to answer this. You could put me in the hot seat right now, but I do want to come back at least for a few minutes just to ask you if a prophecy has to be written before the events it prophesied. I think it's clear the answer is yes, right? You can't prophesy something after it already happened, right? I
But
can't I can't write a book today saying that 9/11 is going to happen on September 11th, 2001, right? That's not a prophecy. It would have to be shown that I wrote it sometime before, correct? That's all I'm trying to establish. It's a very simple thing. A prophecy has to come before the events it prophesies. So
I
I
feel
want to
like
get back to that later, but I'm willing to be in the hot seat right now
I feel
because,
like
again,
this.
this is the first time you asked my opinion.
I feel like I feel like that's been thoroughly established. But I feel like you're
But then
not.
you agreed.
No, listen. I feel like you're not really giving the audience due credit here. You're feeling like you got to go through all this over and over and over, long-winded explanations, and it's pretty clear what you're trying to allege or trying to say. Now, let's hear what are your reasons for why you're so skeptical of the Bible.
Okay, I'm going to tell you what would convince me that the Bible is true and what would convince me that it was a prophecy. to convince me that it was a prophecy, it would have to be somehow clearly shown that the prophecy was written some significant amount of time before the events in question. It would have to be shown that the events were accurately predicted, right? Not vaguely, because the more vague, correct me if I'm wrong, but the more vague a prophecy is, the more it's open to interpretation, the more you can kind of try to twist it to make it like fit, right? Whereas the more specific a prophecy is in terms of describing the event and when it happened, the more specific it is, the more valid it would be, the more convincing it would be to me. Does that make sense?
Okay. Well, then here, my next question.
Hold on. Before you ask me a next question, does that make sense? Do you agree with me? And if not, why not?
That makes sense, but all I'm saying is I have told you that already. I've told you these things have been verified by atheists before. You're just still coming back to still asking the question as if you didn't.
But you admitted that we didn't know when the different books of the Bible were written. Even the chosen ones don't even really know, because you don't even really know. And you're one of the chosen ones, Marcus.
Here's what they do know. They do know that it happened before those dates, hundreds of years. They can confirm that much. That's what they know for a fact. So atheists can confirm the Torah from 2,500 years ago. They can confirm that it's at least that old. Now, I can prove prophecies.
But the Torah is a bunch of different books that was written over different periods of time, correct?
Listen, no, it wasn't.
Am I wrong about that?
You are wrong about that.
The Torah was written all at once or over a period of time?
The Torah was written not over a long period of time. Like how long do you think the Torah was written? Let's just guess. Let's hear it.
I don't know. I'm not an archaeologist. Was it written in one moment, in one day, all together at once, or over a period of time? The answer, it was over a period of time. We agree on that, right?
Thing would have to be. It's not like you can etch things in stone that fast.
Well, theoretically, God could have delivered it all in one, but that didn't happen, even according to your theory, right? Marcus, you got to understand, I'm really agreeing to so many of your theories, like at least just for the sake of argument.
Actually, what you're doing is you're dominating and you're guiding the discussion. That's what you're doing, actually. And I'm explaining why you're doing that, because you're asking me questions, I'm just giving answers. If there's not allowing me to lay out or give you any pushback on, okay, explain this, explain that. Now, can you explain why every location that the Bible says will be destroyed and how they said that they would be destroyed, over 15 different places, it happened? Can you explain that?
No, I can't.
Okay, hold on.
Next question.
That's all I need. Hold on. Next question. That's all I needed, because I don't want to drag this out. I just want you to answer some couple of quick questions for me.
I'm being very direct. One word answer, no.
Hold on. You said the prophecies had to be specific. Now, if I predict 400 years before you're born exactly what you're going to do, that all of a sudden you're going to rise up, you're going to basically control all of America, even though you were virtually, your family was obscure. I knew all of a sudden you were just going to take over damn near the whole world. And I knew after that, you're going to die at 33. And then after that, your 4 generals are going to split it up and what they're going to do with it. You're saying that somehow that should be just thrown out the window, that somebody could figure.
No, not at all, Marcus. I think you're misunderstanding me. If there was a specific prophecy that said all these things, yes, that would be convincing to me, Marcus.
Alexander the Great, it tells you his life.
Okay.
King Cyrus, it tells you about his life. King Darius, Sargon, it goes through all of these different people. It talks about Hannibal of Carthage. It talks about all of these people far before they were born.
Okay. By name and by specific dates when they were born and exactly where and stuff like that? Or just general and vague? Which one?
It names their kingdoms. It names their family lineage. It names the wars that they're going to go into. It might not name the year, but it names the wars. And so
it doesn't name the year. Isn't that kind of a big problem? Like I said, if you read a news article today and it doesn't say a date, you would say this is BS and unprofessional.
But if you're able to carbonate that newspaper and know that newspaper is from 10 years old, then you know that newspaper is 10 years old. It doesn't have to have the date on the newspaper.
But you admitted you don't know how specific it is, and it could be a wide range, right? In
What you're
terms of the
saying is
carbon
that,
dating, and you're not an expert in that, and neither am I. So
are you saying that carbon dating should be thrown out?
no, I'm saying that if we don't know how specific it is, that there's room for error. That's my argument here. There's room for error. And I'm going to tell you what I believe. Since this is what you're trying to ask me, you put me in the hot seat now. You could ask me some questions. I'm done, putting you in the hot seat. I'm sorry if you felt too like I
Well,
was
no,
coming at you.
I feel like you asked a lot of these questions with a presupposition, as if you already know what I'm thinking or how I believe on that.
Marcus, I'm asking you things based on what you believe. And with all due respect, sir, you have been a Hebrew Israelite for a year and a half, right?
You really
Dude,
have
I've been talking to Hebrew Israelites and Christians way longer than that, bro.
And here's what you don't understand. It doesn't matter how long I've been a Hebrew Israelite. I'm gonna tell you why. Because here's one thing which most Hebrew Israelites have to learn. I already knew history. I already knew archaeology. And I knew about ancient history, ancient archaeology, way more than most Hebrew Israelites could ever know. Once you know that information, it makes the Bible pretty damn simple, especially if you've read it most of your life. I've already been reading the Bible most of my life. All I needed was to key in on certain details and focus in different areas. That's all I've really done.
All right. Aren't there a lot of historical experts that know more than you about this?
Of course.
Including the atheist ones, right? All the ones that you mentioned before, right? Why do you think more of them don't become Hebrew Israelites, or at least like become Christian?
Well, one thing in the Bible, it literally says that everybody is not. It's for one, it's not for everybody. For one, it says some people are not going to get it. It literally says that. So the book is saying that it's not for everybody. Everybody's not going to understand it. So that would be my answer.
Okay, fair enough. I'm sorry I asked you another question after I said I wasn't going to. If you want, I don't know if you want to split the stream up when you upload it, up to you, whatever you want, just for the ease of the audience of listening. This could be the section where you destroy me and just ask me a bunch of questions, and I'll try my best to answer. If I don't know, I'll say I don't know.
Well, since a lot of people don't understand why I would have that belief as a Hebrew Israelite, that the Hebrew Israelites are the chosen people. Let me read you a verse real quick. I'm gonna find something to read for you real quick. And this will.
Why would I care what the Bible said, though, Marcus? Like, I'm gonna listen to what you're reading, but why would I care? I could read you a letter from any book.
But part of your questioning is, you said, why do we believe what we believe, right?
Because of the Bible. But why do you believe in the Bible? Because of prophecy.
Because of prophecy. Okay, here's this. Let's skip past all the older events. Let's say that there's certain events which I'm able to see in the Bible literally right now. Now, if I say that I can see these movements and I see them keep happening in line the way it says it's going to happen, wouldn't I be a little silly to not believe that at some point if you keep seeing things play out how something says it's going to?
Yes.
And I'm not saying that everybody has seen or know what I know. I mean, a lot of Hebrew Israelites don't understand prophecy. I know Hebrew Israelites that have been doing it for 10 years that don't know what the hell they're talking about. I know a whole camp that literally teaches that basically it's all right to have it almost like a rape doctrine. And so the organization which I'm talking about, their leader has been doing this for 30 years. And so just because you've been doing it a certain amount of time doesn't necessarily mean you're always correct on things. That's my point. I focused, and when I was in the church, I grew up focused on revelation and end time prophecy. That is what I've always studied. So for my whole entire life, that has been my go-to. And so I understand certain allegories and sayings, what it's saying. For instance, most Christians, you ask them, they don't have a clue what the hell is going on in the Revelations and Daniel and Isaiah and Ezekiel and a lot of these books. And that's the reason why they focus just on Matthew and love Christ, and we're all spiritual Israel. The Bible is not written that way, and all it takes is to read it. It literally explains itself. But most people make make a judgment on it and have never truly read it. You say you've read some of the Bible, but have you read all 80 books of the King James?
No, I have not. No, I have not.
And
But
that's
here's the thing, why would I care to? Like can I just say
and
I
so
talk to Muslims and they say that I can't have really an opinion on Islam because I haven't read the whole Quran. I've only read some of it. And they're right.
yeah, and I agree with
But
them.
at the end of the day, have you read all the holy books of all the religions that you
And
reject?
I'm gonna tell you why I don't need to read the Quran. I can tell you exactly why I don't need the Quran. Because the Quran, what it tells you to do, literally, the Quran means to recite. The Quran, it literally tells them to believe everything in the Bible, that the Bible is correct. And
I'm
so,
talking about holy books in general.
but
Have you read
listen,
all the holy books of every religion that you reject?
I'm not I'm not talking about all these other religions right now. We're
But
talking
I
about,
am. I'm talking in general. You're trying to talk about the Quran. That was an example. Let's talk about
okay,
whatever, any
but
scripture from any religion, bro. There's religions that you do not believe in, yet you have not read all their scriptures, right?
skeptical. Am I the one who's on here trying to tear apart somebody's doctrine or beliefs? I'm not the one doing that. So the burden shouldn't be on me to have to go through and read all these things because I'm not the one trying to debunk everybody. You are.
I'm not trying to debunk everybody.
You're trying to debunk me.
I
You
don't
said
have to
that.
debunk you. I don't think I actually could debunk you. Even I don't. Here's the thing, Marcus. I told you beforehand, I'm not going to try to defeat you. And maybe you feel that I am trying to defeat you. But here's the thing, bro. I don't think I could actually defeat you. I cannot disprove the Bible. I will say that front and center. I do not think I could disprove Islam. I can cast doubt on things they say. I don't think I have
But
the
here's
ability or even the desire or the necessity
but
to
here's why
disprove any religious belief, Marcus. Do
well,
you get why
well,
that
what
is,
I'm trying
though?
to explain is
Do you see where I'm coming from?
but this is why I have a different ability that you don't. If you have not read the information, then therefore you shouldn't be trying to make a strong, harsh opinion on it. Read the
I
whole
don't think I'm having a strong, harsh opinion on it, Marcus,
listen,
because I cannot
listen,
prove that you're wrong.
listen. The Bible, it's just like any other thing. You want to know if a movie is good? How do you know the movie is good? You go watch the movie. You're trying to find ways to debunk the whole Bible without just simply reading the Bible.
Marcus, the
You don't have
burden of proof is on the person making the
how hard
claim.
you're trying to
Marcus,
debunk
when a
something
person makes a
great.
claim, they have the burden of proof. I could not disprove you because I don't think this is really verifiable in a strong way with confidence.
Did I not verify multiple things?
No, you made many claims, and I agreed that if those things could be
So you're
shown
telling
to be true, there would be something to that. Although, don't you think there could be some other possible explanation for the
your
prophecies, even if they were supposedly true?
so your explanation is I just need to believe that everything in the Bible is fabricated, but it was
No,
fabricated.
Marcus, I did not say that.
But here's
I'm not saying it's fabricated. I'm
but here,
saying I
but
don't
here's
think
what
it's
I'm
been proven, and those things are
but
different,
here's what
bro.
I'm trying to get you to understand. If it's detailing major events in the book accurately, it if it's detailing them accurately, and whether it was 1 year before, whether it was 300 years before, it details these things. These are historical facts.
How could it detail something accurately when it doesn't even say when it's going to happen? That's not accurate, dude. That's vague.
Accurate is described. Okay, listen to this. If I said there was a shooting of 17 Asian people in San Diego, and there's only been one shooting of 17 Asian people in San Diego, you can figure out which event they're talking about.
But on a long enough time
What,
scale,
what I'm
that
saying
would
is,
happen eventually, right, Marcus?
if you read these accounts, then you would understand that the questions which you're asking are not well thought out. What I'm telling you is when it literally says that this many people are going to die in this area, and we can go and literally find the structure completely collapsed. We can find the mass graves all over the place, and it fits with the time period. That's not one witness. That's two. That's three. That's four witnesses. What you're doing is you're saying, cast it all. Just ignore it all. It all just has to be a coincidence. And
Marcus,
what I
I
hear.
never said ignore it all. I never said ignore it all, bro. I think you're getting really defensive and you
No, but
stopped
what I'm
listening
saying
to what I'm saying a long time ago. I tried to make efforts to not put words in your mouth. When I misunderstood
What I'm
you, I
saying,
tried to correct myself, right? When
you're
I
taking
misunderstood
great
you, bro,
leaps.
Marcus.
You're taking great leaps when there's plenty of things which line up with themselves, which paint a narrative, and you're just saying, you know what, it just can't be.
Marcus, that's not what I'm saying. Again,
Then
I think
what?
you're
Then what are
struggling
you
to
saying?
listen to me because you're defensive. You're actually putting words in my mouth, dude. I'm trying to. When I misunderstood you and you said that I misunderstood you, I wanted to give you a chance to clarify, and I accepted your clarification,
Hey,
right? Or no?
is that fake right there? Can you see the screen? No, it's
Yeah.
not. That fake.
Okay.
Is it fake? I'm asking you.
I don't know. Is it real? My
Dude,
whole thing is I don't think we know. Your whole thing is it's
it,
real, it's real. So I'm asking you why you think it's real.
okay, listen, okay, this is why I think it's real. They talked about ancient Samaria, the Tower of Babel, where civilization started and it was dispersed. I can show you the ziggurat, which matches the location and heights of what they said it would be. That's one. Hold on. Let's to the next thing. Then they talk about the Israelites going into captivity in Egypt. I can see that. That is documented. On to the next thing. They talk about, for instance, Edom and Mount Seir. That is an actual location. And for those, you can check on my channel. I did about an hour video on Edom showing it. I can show you these biblical accounts. Here's the thing. I know history. And so when you say, well, I know history. I don't care what you don't know. I know these things. I can see all of these things historically. And I've known about most of these historical events before I opened the Bible. That means,
Okay, Marcus, is
and I
history an exact
event
science?
after event after event after event. I can prove them all the way through. And what you're
All
doing
right.
is just throwing just doubt for the reason of doubt.
All right. Can I say something?
Sure.
You know that I study the Black Panther Party a lot, right? This is going to
Yes,
seem
I
really
do.
random. No, this is going to seem random, but it's about the study of history. You're going to see in 1 second how it's very, very relevant.
Yes, educate me on the Panthers.
No, I'm not going to talk about the Panthers. I'm going to talk about the method of history and historical study. Do you mind for one
Go,
second?
go for it.
Okay, so this event, which happened in the 1960s, 1970s, right? This Black Panther insurgency, that whole political movement, right? There's still people alive from those days right now, still, right? We have that benefit, whereas we don't have that benefit for a lot of it, for any of the ancient history, right? When something happened a long time ago in history, correct me if I'm wrong, but the farther in the past it happened, the harder it would be to verify certain things, right? Is that fair to say?
Something.
Do you see what I'm trying to get at? Like
What
historical
you're
epistemology?
but what I'm trying to tell you is
Marcus, please don't try to change the topic. Can I ask you these questions, bro?
yeah,
The
hey,
farther in the
hold on,
past something
hold on.
happened.
I didn't change the topic. You changed the topic. You jumped off into some Black Panthers
No,
bullshit.
no. We're talking about
What
historical
no,
epistemology.
what you don't understand about history is we ain't talking about just one or two people, dude. We're talking about thousands of fucking historians who write this stuff, and you're trying to just cast all of it out because you don't know about it.
I'm not
But
trying to
you,
cast all of it out,
oh, you
Marcus.
are.
I'm trying
Yes,
to talk about how we learn about history in
I,
general, and then we'll talk about the
listen,
Bible
listen.
specifically so
I
you
went.
could understand
You
what's
don't need
going
to
on
tell me
here.
about history. Listen, I went to
All right,
college.
Marcus, you teach me
Don't.
about history. That's why
Yes,
I'm the
I
one
need.
asking you
Yeah,
the
you need to
questions
be
because
taught
you're the
about it.
one who knows everything, bro. So please let me ask you about
No,
history.
I know damn more. I know a lot more than you do.
I
That's
know you do. That's why I'm going to
because
ask you about
the
it and you're
question
going to teach me,
that's
right?
because you keep asking dumbass questions. That's how I know you
Bro,
don't.
I'm just not as smart as you. So please, you're in a
No,
position to
it's
teach
because
everyone
you're a
right
smart
now.
ass. It's because you're a smart ass. That's all it is. All you're doing is literally scoffing. That's all a scoff
Marcus,
is somebody who doesn't have an answer who tries to debunk shit. That's all you're
I'm
doing.
not trying to debunk you, dude.
Listen,
I already said I don't think I could debunk you.
listen. All you have not you have not presented one shred of evidence for anything
No,
that
I haven't. I'm
you
not in
thought
the position to. Do you get that?
you what do you believe that nothing is nothing? So we just believe nothing.
No, Marcus,
That's
I've
your
not said
that's
that.
your proposed belief system that everybody should adopt apparently.
You don't have to adopt anything. You seem very
What
happy with this belief, and that's totally fine. Bro, why are you so defensive about this?
Can you silence for a minute? Let me talk to the audience. What I'm saying is, for you out there who are actually listening, open-minded, I have given this man actual historical accounts, which they know from history when they happened. The Bible talked about these things in books which were dated before they happened. Roman historians back up this information in their own history. So do the Sumerians, so do Babylonians, so do Egyptians, so do the Syrophoenicians, so do the Persians, so do the Greeks. There are many people who there's so much information on all of these topics. And instead of spending all this time trying to, well, I don't know about this, or maybe I don't know about that, why don't you do more research and trying to learn about it instead of trying to say it doesn't exist or trying to cast doubt?
Marcus, I never said it doesn't exist, dude. You're struggling. You're struggling, man.
Time here is trying to cast doubt on everything.
Yes, I'm trying to cast doubt through questioning. I'm not trying to debunk you, and that's different. I'm not trying to debunk you, Marcus, but I am trying to cast doubt, and I hope you understand the difference, which I see that you don't.
Perfect example. There's theology that's a debate, but there's a study of difference is true examination, not blind doubt. You're casting blind doubt. The thing about it is, the stuff which you try to question me on, I'm presenting information back to it, but you keep trying to say it doesn't matter, or that doesn't fit, or what this is that. All you're doing is bullshitting. It's clear to see that you just don't want to be, intellectually honest. Dude, you're wrong on certain things. Certain things are proven by multiple.
Maybe I am wrong. That's why I want to ask you questions so that you can enlighten me in the audience.
Multiple historians from Harvard and Yale and all of these places that they just don't get it, and you're the one who knows what's talking about.
But dude, the majority of those people aren't Christians, so what are you talking about, bro? You're the only one who's hyped up, man, because you're struggling, bro. I'm trying to ask you simple questions, and you're getting pissed.
And then you dodge.
Bro, Jesus would not be very happy with you right now. You're acting, you're kind of struggling right now, and you're not really listening.
Do you not see the comments? Read.
Can I ask you about the historical method, Marcus, instead of specific claims? Can I ask you about the historical method or no? Do you mind or no? I'm asking you about the historical method. If you don't think there's a point to that, then that's fine. Then we could change the topic or end the conversation right now. I want to ask you about the historical method. And you want to, what, not answer it?
I call it street nonsense. This is just somebody just sitting up there saying, well, no matter what you say, well, there's still some doubt.
You know what's so funny, Marcus? The people in the chat agreeing with you aren't Hebrew Israelites either, and they're not even Christian, bro.
It's sad that that's your frame of argument for the world. Look to try to prove everything wrong.
Marcus, I already told you 100 times, I don't think I could prove you wrong, and I'm not trying to.
I know you can't prove me wrong, but you keep trying.
No, I'm not trying. I have admitted that I'm not trying to defeat you, but you feel defensive, clearly.
Skeptical has made a job of creating confusion and doubt by asking leading questions, confuse and break beliefs, but in losing the flow, Skeptical is adding a condescending tone. Yes, you are, dude. Here's the thing.
Marcus, you sound like you're having a breakdown, dude. I'm trying to ask you about historical epistemology, and you're just like talking about how I'm trying to prove you wrong and stuff, dude. Bro,
I probably would be getting to some judgments on you because
that's fine. Marcus, if your belief is true, then I'm going to hell and you're going to heaven, and it's all fine. It doesn't matter, bro. Like, yo, you should be confident right now, right? I'm the one who should be worried. If the Bible's true, I'm the one who should be worried of damnation and all that, bro. Marcus, you got the salvation and I don't, right? So that's fine. Why are you so upset? You should take pity on me, sir.
What I don't like is when somebody...
Marcus, you should take pity on me, sir. Have you read the Bible? You should take pity on me because you have salvation, sir, and I do not. So please, stop insulting me. Let me ask you about the historical method, Marcus.
What salvation even is. You don't even
Marcus, I don't have to because I I know the damnation you think I'm gonna have, and that's fine, bro. That's totally fine.
So,
Maybe it's gonna
okay,
happen.
well, what's
Shouldn't
the
you be
damnation?
confident? Why are you all pissy, bro? Why are you all pissy when you're the one who's going to heaven?
What's the damnation? What's it? Well, go ahead and tell me the
I'm gonna
damnation.
get either destroyed at Armageddon if you believe that, or I'm gonna get sent to hell if you believe that.
I don't believe in hell in the sense you think of hell. So you don't
How
even
do
know
you know
what I'm
how I think of
talking about.
hell? But you believe in
Huh?
some kind of hell, right? You don't know
That's
how I
okay.
think of hell, right?
There's
You don't know how I think of hell because I haven't told you what I think of
you,
hell.
you care for
Have
listen.
I?
Here's
Have
the
I
thing,
told you what I think hell is?
skeptical. You're the one who made the assumption that I said you were going to go to some type of hell. You don't even know what my
No,
concept
you
of hell.
believe in some kind of damnation.
I never. What? I believe in what?
That I will have some kind of damnation for not believing in this stuff, right?
No, I don't.
Okay, so then
Did,
thank you for
did I
clarifying.
not before
See how
say?
I give you a
Did,
chance to clarify?
did I not before say that he created gods for the other nations?
Yo, but do you see how when you
Did I?
clarify things, I actually say okay and I let you
You're not
clarify instead of
listening.
trying to put words in
You're
your mouth?
don't assume, man. Quit assuming. That's what's getting you in trouble here. You
All
keep
right,
assuming.
can I ask you about the historical method at any point or no? Because I
Go,
see you really
go
didn't want to
ahead
talk about that.
and please, yes, bore the audience with your conclusion. Go for it.
I don't care if they're bored, Marcus. I'm not here to entertain them. I'm here to understand you. And if me understanding you is
This is
boring to
the
them, then we should end the interview because I'm trying to pick your brain and see how you think. So it's really you who's boring people, dude. Do you mind if I ask you about the historical method? And then if you get too pissy about it, we could just end the interview. I've been trying to ask you about the historical method for a while now. And it's
just
funny because
know
all the
there's
people in the
never
chat trolling and talking crap
look,
about me, they're not Hebrew Israelites and they're not Christian either, bro.
boy, you don't know
They're
nothing.
wacko, like
Boy,
spiritual
you don't know nothing
fucking
about it.
drug users, paranoid guys, bro. And they're like acting like they agree with you just because they hate me, bro. They're not even Christian. They don't even agree with you about biblical prophecy and all that. So can I
Talk
please
about
ask you
that.
some questions about the
It ain't
historical
about
method?
that.
If
It's
not, that's
about being
fine.
able to look at a discussion and see which one of us is trying to be on the up and up and honest and have an honest conversation, and which one is trying to play little slippery games. It's easy to see that. They don't have to believe what I believe to see that you are not being honest.
Can I ask you a few questions about how we learn about history and how we confirm things in historical method? Yes or no? Can I
Sure.
ask you?
Go for it.
Okay, so the first question that I tried to ask you was whether it's true that an older event is harder to verify with high confidence than a more recent event. Yes or no?
Actually, yes, we'll go with your line of thinking.
No, don't go with my line of thinking,
No,
bro. If I'm wrong, please
because I want
explain.
no. I want to ask you a question because
Wait, but no. Can I ask you this?
no,
You just agreed to let me
I want
ask
to
you
ask
about the
you a question.
historical method. Now you want to turn the questions on me. When I gave you a chance, I said,
Calm
Marcus, put me in
down.
the hot seat.
Calm
Yo,
your ass down, boy.
bro,
Calm down.
I gave you a chance to ask me questions and you just spent the whole time preaching. Around the 140-minute mark, I said, go ahead, put me in the hot seat. It's your chance. And you actually just spent all the time preaching. I'm trying to ask you about the
40
historical
minutes.
method,
An
and now
hour
you
and
want
a
to ask
half.
me a question back.
Skeptical. You said the 140 minutes. It's 159. That's been about 20 minutes. You spent an hour
But
and a
you
half.
haven't
Shut
asked me
up.
questions,
Shut
bro.
up.
You just
Listen.
preached
Listen.
and
No,
just
you need
lost
to
the whole
explain.
plot
You
of the
need to explain
discussion.
stuff real quick.
Yo,
If you
you
want,
just agreed
no,
that
no,
I
no,
could ask
no, no,
you
no,
about the
no.
historical method, then you didn't want to
Explain.
talk about it.
Explain this. You have all the doubts. Then how do we trust any history? How do we
Marcus,
trust any? No.
I can
Explain
try to
how we
answer that, but I
explain
just
how we can
asked if I could
trust.
ask you about the historical method. You said yes, and then after I asked you one question, you said, oh, wait, let me turn it on you. So which one is it? Can I ask you about the historical method, or are you asking the questions now? It's
No,
up
I
to
don't
you,
want.
bro.
No, don't ask me about this dumbass question. Explain to me how you
Okay,
understand.
so you don't want to
No,
answer my
no.
questions about the historical method. That's
The
fine.
reason why
Just be
I don't want
clear,
to answer
Marcus. You said you're willing to answer it, and then you changed
skeptical.
the topic. So go ahead. Ask me a few final questions if you want. You put me in the hot
Skeptical.
seat. Ask me a few questions if you want. If not,
All you're
we
doing
can
is
end
asking
it. It's up to
questions
you,
to
dude.
dodge. You're
I have
asking
no
questions
hard
to dodge.
feelings
You don't
towards
want to
you.
explain
I'm
anything.
sorry that you're struggling,
I
bro.
want
I would
you
want
to
to ask
explain.
you, why
I
is
want
it?
you
No, I
to
would want to ask
explain.
you,
No, no, no.
how would your
I
life
want you to
change if you
explain.
stopped believing in the Bible? Because I think that's
No,
really the
no. I
key to this
want
whole
want
discussion.
you to explain something to me. I want you to explain because all I've heard is how you can't accept this, we can't accept that, we have to have doubt on this. What can we have credit in believing in, and how do we verify it? Because you've casted doubt on damn near everything. You got to tell
So you're
us.
just asking my same question back to you, back to
I'm
me
you
rather.
that question, yes, because you're not giving any answers. All you're saying is everything
Okay,
has
so
doubt.
can I try to answer then? How we
Explain,
verify things in history, and you
explain.
let me know what I've gotten wrong. Do you
Go,
mind if I talk for like 2, 3
go,
minutes
go.
trying to answer your question? Do you
Motherfucker,
mind?
nigga, go talk.
All right. So, but yo, I want to make sure that you don't just start running your mouth when I start answering you because you don't like where I'm going. All right. We're at the 202-minute mark. Do you mind if I talk for like 2 minutes straight? All right. How do we
Ain't
verify things
gotta
in
say
history?
it, dude. Talk. Why are you acting so fucking emotional? Just talk, man.
Because the second I start explaining myself, you're going to start running your mouth to stop me, but then you're going to tell me to explain myself. So can I please just talk? Okay. How do we verify things in history? I'm trying to make the point that if something happened very recently, like yesterday, how would we verify it? I'm going to try to answer. Then there's going to be different methods if the thing happened 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago, right? There's going to be different methods. So first of all, this is the point I'm trying to make about ancient versus recent history. When something happened recently, let's say something that happened yesterday or last week, we live in modern times. We live in a time where there could potentially be videos. There could be a lot of eyewitnesses that are still alive today who could cross-reference what they saw happen or what they heard, right? Like at a crime scene, for example. Do you think it's easier to like investigate a crime that happened yesterday or a crime that happened 1,000 years ago? I think the answer is quite obvious. There are different methods based on how far away in history the events in question happened, right? The investigation of the questions is going to be totally different because there's different forms of evidence that could be possible now that aren't possible before. For the ancient history, you talked about carbon dating as being one example, right? Of like a way that they try to figure out when these things were written. There's no videos back then, right? There's actually there's like plenty of problems with ancient history, translation problems, even your archaeology, right, is a different, like, to find out what happened last week or yesterday in history, we don't use archaeology, right? Does that make sense? Like, these are different methods with different
I'm letting you.
levels of certainty that they could provide. That's what I'm trying to say. Would you agree with that or no?
I still haven't found the answer to the question.
Your question was, how do we verify things in history? And I'm giving you
The
different
question is
examples
done.
of how we verify things in history. Modern history, we could verify through uh, cross-examining eyewitnesses that could still be alive because it happened recently and comparing their conflicting points of view and try to figure out what's consistent in their stories. You could actually look at the credibility of the individuals in question, whereas you can't really do that with the Bible in the same way, right? Because all those people are long, long dead. Everybody who ever knew them died also a long time ago, right? So when there's no eyewitnesses alive, that's just one example of how things are harder to investigate deep in the past. There's no videos deep in the past, whereas a video would be a great potential like part of evidence, right? It's not going to be all the evidence right there because yeah, it could be a fake video. Maybe the video is not clear what it shows. Who knows? But it will be more clear, right? Yo, just to compare it to something else. All right, we could watch boxing fights in HD, right? We could watch exactly how it went down from a whole bunch of camera angles in modern times, right? But have you ever watched like the really old fights where the camera looks like garbage? You can't really see what's happening. There's not that many angles. The technology sucks. Sometimes you can barely tell what's happening in those fights. Do you see the comparison and how that relates to study of modern history versus the Bible? That's my question. I'm done speaking. That's how we verify
What?
history.
You didn't answer the question. And I'll explain why you didn't answer the question. All you did was name out different methods of trying to understand history as if I don't understand that. That's all you did. You didn't explain how what we can trust in history, because you basically are saying, well, there's doubt here and well, there's doubt there. Explain to me how anything in the past that we can verify, or do you just believe all history that we don't still have living people alive for? We can't trust any of it.
No, I never said that. I said there's different levels of evidence, different types of evidence that can afford us different levels of confidence.
Okay, so in saying that, how far back are you willing to say information that you believe is verifiable?
I don't think it's a black and white thing where it's verifiable or not. Do you know what confidence means, Marcus? It means there's degrees of confidence. It means we're not fully sure and we're not fully sure. Do you get that? There's some amount of doubt here. There is always doubt, even in history, even in science, right?
What I'm explaining is, honestly, you would probably be good at just finding pesky excuses not to do shit. But what I'm seeing is you don't have any answers for anything. You understand?
I don't need to, because there's no burden of proof on me, Marcus. I don't have a religion. You're the one with the divine knowledge of God, bro. You're the chosen one.
I just talked about on history, kid. I just talked about on history. I just asked you. I didn't even ask you about the Bible. I said, how can we trust history? Any old history. You came up with, well, I mean, this different method is this, and well, if we don't have this, then we don't have this, and then maybe we can do it by this. You did not explain how you come to understanding or believing any of it. What methods did you? Okay, let's say this. None of us were here during the Civil War. Do you believe that happened?
I believe that many of the basic aspects of it can be confirmed by cross-referencing many different accounts from even different parts of the world, right? Different corners of the world. But there are some things that to this day about the Civil War could still be in doubt, right? Many basic facts that are uncertain. Am I wrong about that, Marcus?
That's not the point. On literally everything, nobody's going to have 100% knowing on every single thing.
Sure, but there's aspects of the Civil War that are in doubt, right?
Skeptical way. You're doing a straw man argument by trying to make everything have to be an absolute. That's where you're wrong. Nothing's for you to try to argue everything. All you can do is look at information to the most certainty that you can get and draw the most logical conclusion. You cannot sit there and have 100% on anything.
Agreed.
That you're never going to believe in anything. Because you can easily say, well, the Civil War, maybe they lied about the whole thing. Maybe everybody around the world lied about it. That's what I'm saying. You just can't, if you're going to take that logic, then that's with everything. So you can't say, well, the Bible, I can't confirm that, and this and that, and then turn around and say, you know what, I'll accept Greek history. Because it's going on literally at the same time. Your argument is
Have I told you anything about my beliefs of Greek history?
Okay, do you believe history in you believe the Roman history? Do you believe that Rome actually happened?
That it actually happened?
That it was an empire. Do you believe it was a massive empire that ruled most of Europe and the Mediterranean and into Asia Minor?
Probably, but I don't live my life based on that. The way you live your life based on the Bible, Marcus, you see, you're invested in believing in this. I'm not.
Dude, what you're doing.
You're emotionally invested, Marcus, which is why you're kind of like having a tantrum right now.
I'm not even
Marcus, I don't care if the Bible's true. I would believe in it. I don't care. But if the Bible wasn't true, would you stop believing in it? Hypothetically, yes or no question. Yes or no question.
Is the Roman Empire the Bible?
Okay, what do I believe about the Roman Empire? I never studied it. I never went to Rome. I'm not an expert.
I just asked you
Doesn't
about
matter.
the Roman Empire. I didn't say anything about the Bible. Pay attention.
Okay, the farther away in history something happened, the harder it is to verify. So the Roman Empire is more, like, aspects of it are more doubtful to me than like something happening last week. Does that make sense, Marcus?
That's what I call a weasel. That's a weasel answer. Yeah, that makes sense. It's saying that you don't want to give any ground on what I'm saying because it goes against your argument. That's all you're doing. You're doing debate tactics, and you're being disingenuous. Now, most people know that the Roman history was extremely well dated.
Was
well.
it better
No,
dated
no,
than
no,
the
no.
than the
Stop.
Sumerian
No.
stuff, where there wasn't even written language in the same way? I think the answer is yes.
Do
The
you know what?
Roman Empire
Do
is
you know what
better
cuneiform is?
understood than the Sumerian,
Do you
correct?
know
Yes or
what
no?
cuneiform is? Do you know what cuneiform is? Do you?
Cuneiform tablets, yes, an old form of
Yeah,
writing.
that's it. That's from Sumeria. So don't say it wasn't.
Okay.
Dude, here's the thing.
Okay, so
I'm
was it
no.
as
Hey,
developed,
hey,
right?
hey.
Yo, if you
Except
could compare cuneiform tablets
that
and how like prevalent they were in the development of writing at that time versus like the level of writing during the Roman Empire, which one do you think has more documentation in writing,
dude, I
dude?
think your logic is nonsense. That's what I think.
Bro, you can't even answer any of these questions, bro. You're
I
struggling so bad. Yo, you really need to, I don't know, dude, this is not going anywhere. You're struggling, you're not
dude,
answering
dude.
anything. I
Everybody in
think everything has
literally,
already been said, man.
literally
Yo, look, how would your
nobody
life change
agrees
if the
with you.
Bible wasn't true? Marcus, this is what it's really about. All
Literally
your apologetics don't mean
nobody
anything.
agrees
Look,
with
if the Bible wasn't true, how would your life be different?
you. Literally
Because this is an
nobody.
emotional investment that you have. This is not anything but an emotional investment, Marcus. How did your life change for the better when you became a Hebrew
You're not
Israelite?
good.
Can you tell me that?
Next time you debate somebody, do a better job. Actually,
Marcus, I told you I
let
wasn't going to debate you and I didn't. I
yeah, you
questioned you
know,
and you melted down.
okay, so
Bro,
let
you're
me say this.
struggling.
What's
Yo,
this?
Jesus is disappointed in you, dude. Seriously.
Well, he doesn't even love you, so it doesn't matter. Anyway,
I don't need his love, bro. I don't need his love, bro. You
you
need Jesus'
should.
love? I don't need
Good.
his love.
So
I don't need him to caress me at night, bro.
I'm gonna
I don't
finish
need
with the final
Jesus.
statement. I don't care what you're saying. I don't really care what you're saying at this point because I realize what you are now.
Marcus,
So
did your life get any better after
why?
becoming a Hebrew Israelite?
Actually, it did. So don't worry about
Exactly.
it. It's
Do you
no, no,
get
no,
it?
no. It did get
You
better.
gained something
Yes, I do.
emotionally from
I
becoming a Hebrew Israelite, right? Your life got
do.
better because you became a Hebrew Israelite.
Yes,
Do you get
yes.
why that's like kind of like warping your whole view of the discussion? You needed this. You needed Jesus. You needed to become a
Dude, it's
Hebrew
too
Israelite. It gave you something.
long.
Bro, I have no
Dude, you're
need
the
for
king of
this.
filibusters. You are the king
Dude,
of filibuster.
I don't need this. I don't need
Yeah,
the
you do.
Bible.
You don't
I
need
don't
the.
need your
Hey, I don't.
salvation, bro. I'm not scared of damnation and I don't need your.
Nobody cares. Skeptical. I tried to wait, and I didn't want to do you like this and put you on mute. Good, leave, little bitch. I don't care. The thing about it is, everybody saw here that Skeptical did not have actual conclusions to anything. All he did was doubt, 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 doubt. He's gonna sit here and try to act like Roman Empire is not documented and well known. He's gonna try to act like, oh, I have doubts about the Roman. Man, get the fuck out of here. You are the dumbest fucking person I've ever had a debate with. And gonna sit here and talk about, Marcus, you're getting sensitive. No, you ain't seen me get sensitive. I would have been cussing this dumbass out if I would have gotten sensitive. The people who know me know how I get if I get sensitive. So my thing, what I was trying to get across to him is I can substantiate what I'm talking about because I can see the history throughout the Bible. Where my beliefs started to, why I became a Hebrew Israelite in the first place, I always had belief in God. But when I saw the ties to history, and I saw between history and actual Bible, and I can see a parallel tie going all the way marching up, confirming what some things which I always kind of wondered, was unsure about, but that's why I changed in that manner. And then when I started to understand prophecies and started to understand what certain things meant, it's a different understanding. Yeah, Chris, he quit. I was gonna mute him for a minute and bring him back in, but he didn't want to listen to anything. And like if he was gonna come through and say, you know what, I doubt the Roman period, and I was going to actually start going into historians and start bringing up, okay, this historian says this historian backs that. Herodotus, who was a because he's acting like, oh, well, we don't have any actual people to there's no eyewitnesses. There were eyewitnesses outside of the Bible who wrote about all of these different things. And what I'm supposed to do is I study on history. I study ancient history, world history, every corner of the globe that I can. I have studied the Quran. I have studied Buddhism, Taoism. I've studied multiple religions in depth. And this little pinhead moron is going to get on here and start questioning me. He doesn't know what I know. I already know this shit. And what he's going from is some of these same theories which Plato used to talk about, which if you go into Plato, Plato stole all of his understanding from the Greeks, which got it from the Egyptians, which got it from the fucking Sumerians and Babylonians. And so when I have a moron who's trying to tell me the genesis of something, and he doesn't even understand the histories of the things behind it and all the archaeology that backs up the different information. I mean, he didn't even get into, and you notice, he didn't want to get into prophecy. He didn't want me to start getting into that area. That's the reason why he kept talking and talking and talking. I mean, he's asking these questions. I'm showing, I understand this information. You all can understand the question, but he has to keep repeating it and dragging it out, because ultimately what he was looking for is he knew that he couldn't really land a punch in this debate. So what he wanted to do is try to find some way to pick, just like what I was saying when I started the cast. I was saying you get some of those younger Hebrew Israelites and they're just learning about stuff, and so they might understand the Bible book, chapter, verse pretty good, but they might not understand history as well, or their grammar might not be as good. You get some asshole like Skeptical who comes up, and because they screw up on saying one word or mispronounce something, then they take the whole discussion about that one missed word because that's all they have. And I realize people like Skeptical, their whole point is to just be naysayers. No concrete on anything, just be a naysayer. I see I got a lot of friends in the chat. Say hello. I see Dubster Brian. Thank you for some of those comments you put in there. I got Josh in the chat. Always much love to my boy Josh. Steve, I see. Who else we got? Jesse. Oh yeah, Propaganda. You know, who else am I missing in here? I know it was a lot of comments which I missed. Play with G91. Jack Sith. Thank you all for joining. Red Bait Swine, thank you all for being in here. I was going to ask you all if you guys had any questions you wanted me to actually go into while we're talking about Hebrew Israelites. I can actually give you legit serious questions. Legit serious answers for some real questions which you guys might have. I mean, because there are plenty of, like, when he was saying, well, does your life feel better since you're a Hebrew Israelite? I'll go ahead and answer that question. I didn't want to answer that to him because he's a dickhead, but I'll answer it to the rest of you all. Yes, because now I have a better understanding of a lot of the things which are going on, and I can see big time movements. You know, it's almost like, you know, you have the movie script, and now you know the next plot turn. Now you might not remember the exact lines to the play or to the movie or whatever, but you know what's about to happen overall. And for me, that is a form of happiness and enjoyment and comforting to be able to have an idea of what's coming next. I mean, most people in general, I feel like we all wonder, like, what are we here for and what comes after this and things like that. And I don't feel there's anything wrong with anybody wanting to seek out and find that. And if you believe there's, you know, just some kind of creator in an agnostic way, or if you believe in a specific way, I don't believe it's anything wrong. I believe it's perfectly natural if you felt you were created by a benevolent being that you would want to try to learn more or find out more. So, I mean, I get it. People have been in churches and heard a lot of the bullshit that they put in there. And like, I'm not wasting my time with that church nonsense. And I don't, and part of what I learned is the church was full of paganism. Their understanding through a pagan understandings is what clouded a lot of their understandings, and that's what the church has been teaching forever. And then you go back to like creeps like Martin Luther, who started ripping most of the books out of the Bible. I mean, then that messes up understanding more. Then you have the Catholic Church in Europe only making laws where only the priests and popes could understand could read the Bible. And then not to mention how many people were illiterate in Europe also. So there was a concerted effort to keep the people from understanding what's actually in the book from the people, from the leaders. And it was a reason why. Most people don't ask these questions about why they did these things back then. Let's see. Shadowban says, skeptical isn't skeptical at all. He worships Mao, Lenin, Stalin. He just doesn't worship at the altar of Adonai. Oh, that might make some sense. Well, and that's the crazy thing about it, because if you go into just taking a lot of principles of actual the Hebraic customs and culture, it is about collectiveness and taking care of each other, and a lot of views like that. So I would think, if anything, even if he doesn't want to take the religious aspect, you could take some of the principles and concepts and apply that into some of your avenues of thought. Just like I try to tell atheists all the time, when you're dealing with especially these evangelicals, I could show you so many ways to use your class and political arguments to bolster into the religious community to get you more leeway. Whether you believe it or not, they believe it. And that's one thing you always have to keep in mind. It's not, I tell people to read and understand the Bible, because make no mistake, the people at the very top echelon, they do read the Bible and they know the Bible and they believe in it in a different way than I do, but they definitely believe in it. Just like the Bible says, even Satan knows the Bible. And I'm not saying that, just because a person knows the Bible, don't mean that they support the Bible or they're with it, So there are always other motivations going on. Let's see. Council of Nicaea was ignored by Imperium Axiom, so Book of Enoch is part of the Bible. Issues like the different, and then that's something that people have to know about. They know about the Council of Nicaea and some of the things that went on there, but they also don't know about the Council in Carthage. That was the first one when they started assembling the Bible, which happened way before that. Like, a lot of people only look at the Greek and Roman period, and they don't start looking back in some of the construction back to the Persian or the Assyrian and Persian and Medes and the Assyrian time periods. When you actually start looking into, Babylonian history and their accounts of what happened, they have descriptions of the people they interacted with, and that goes back and forth, And so when you're talking about, well, I don't know about this history, and what it is you don't know about it, and you're not even going to take the chance to look at it, because you're going to spend so much time doubting every damn thing that you're not going to research it and then decide what to keep and what to vet. That's the reason why in the Bible it literally tells us it says, hold that which is good. Then you don't take everything. You take from it what's good, and you leave the other shit on the side. And people like that don't understand that concept. It's the same thing when studying history or researching anything. None of us out here do stories and just report it fucking verbatim. We do the research. We try to find other sources. We try to talk to multiple people to confirm what we're talking about before we just have an automatic viewpoint on something. What Skeptical was doing was just coming from the absolute everything. No. There was no, okay, well, maybe you're right on that. Okay, well, maybe this is possibly right. Not even going into the fact of, when I'm talking about these captivities, Egypt documented it. Also, the Nubians documented. Also, Kush, they documented. Also, you get what I'm saying? There are multiple kingdoms which documented all of this stuff. And you can compare the histories with each other. But people like Skeptical would rather spend more time learning about how to doubt every damn thing than learn a damn thing. That's your problem. You spend more time saying no than trying to actually learn something and then enlighten yourself. That's the reason why you make idiotic questions and you go down idiotic lines of reasoning. We didn't even get into actually talking about everything because you went everywhere around on the counter edges of trying to debunk the Bible instead of actually asking direct questions. You could have asked a question like, well, what about Jesus? Is that true? Well, you know what? The Romans actually have historical records of it. Did you know that? You probably didn't, because you've probably never taken the time to research it or look it up. People like you have this arrogant mindset that obviously you know more than other people. That obviously, and honestly, I'm just gonna say it how I think. Honestly, you look at somebody of brown complexion, and you don't think that they can know more than you. And so when you can't figure out how to poke holes in what they believe, then you're just gonna be a jackass. I'm used to goofy ass people just like you, closet racists, and that's what I'm gonna call you because that's what I think you actually are. You literally brought up Vocab Malone, which has been caught multiple times being racist. So birds of a feather, in a sense, maybe. No, I'm not gonna hit you with that. But your line of reasoning is to automatically think that, you know what, black guys have to be stupid and lying. I don't know how else to really take that when I'm sitting up here showing you history and archaeology. I can literally show you, like, everybody, I mean, they put in the chat about Sodom and Gomorrah. That's a fact. That's proven. What is it? Nineveh. That was destroyed. That's proven. Edom, that Mount Petra, that was destroyed. That's proven. It literally talked about how the Assyrians would be destroyed by the Persians and Medes. That happened. Persians and Medes were destroyed by the Greeks. That happened. All of these things it talked about that were going to happen, happened. And then you want to tell me that it's better to just believe that nothing is substantial but a couple hundred years. That's the reason why the Bible called this a dumb generation. And not just Israel, everybody. We're a dumb generation. And we get dumber by people like Skeptical Mantis. Let's see, what other comments that I missed there? Actually, the only reason why Jesus would be disappointed in me is because I might not have gave you your judgment, which I'm pretty sure more than likely you are definitely not an Israelite. You probably definitely belong to one of the nations which have done, which has, what's to say, harmed Israel. So biblically it says, if you bless Israel, you'll be blessed. If you curse Israel, you'll be cursed. So, you know, I'm pretty sure probably historically, besides just now, you probably would be part of that people who cursed us. And so that gives me great joy thinking about what your possible, you know, end might be. Let's see. Skeptical Mantis channel, we are all dumb as fuck. Why bother with us? Yeah, that's his mind. That's his mentality. We're all stupid. We don't know anything. We can't figure out anything. Was just looking for a revolution, but you asked too many questions and didn't get to the point. That's the thing. He never got to the point of any damn thing. Says, I never met Skeptical, just faced a mirror. And I even went on his channel. He doesn't even show his face on his channel, which shows me you're a coward. My face is always out for the most part. Unless I'm doing shit in the background or trying to get things set up. You're just a little coward who likes to get online and scream. 10 Dubster, there's someone actually not reading none of your comments because you're a moron. One of the doctrines that let's see, skeptical such condescension is not a very convincing. That's the thing. How do you lead a movement of anything if you tell everybody don't believe in nothing? I mean, he supposedly believes in communism, but where does communism actually go all the way and originate back to? Do most people, do you know? For those who don't know, it goes all the way back to Greece. It goes all the way back to a man by the name of Epicurus. But, you know, I bet, you know, Skeptical probably didn't know that. And he'll probably, well, that doesn't matter. This and that. He'll say some dumb shit. Well, I guess this is a 2.5 hour mark. I need to start wrapping this up so I can get ready for my show on the political matrix. I'm pretty sure Elle has something juicy she wants to talk about involving Chile. And don't be surprised if we don't have a special guest. So got a couple of friends that I've been chit-chatting with, and I know they got some different stories that they've been talking about, some different viewpoints. And so I want to bring them into the mix and, you know, invite them into the conversation, share some viewpoints, bat some things around with people who actually can conceptualize actual thoughts. It can actually reason on actual information, figure out how to discern. Not be somebody like him who's just like, I don't know if we can trust anything. Let's all just be dummies. That's skeptical. Please don't be a moron like him. What'd you say, Chris? Skeptical sounds like he's been embarrassed on the streets. Oh, I guarantee you. Well, the way he acts, his arrogance, I wouldn't be surprised he got slapped in the mouth on the streets. Skeptical doesn't exist. It's just questions from yourself. A ghost is bringing it from. It might be, Brian. It might be a ghost in the back online torturing me for wasting my time with this damn moron putz. I mean, I have no problem debating anybody, but a debate worth a damn with somebody who actually has actual points. This idiot didn't have any points. And once you start, I mean, I literally of this, 2.5 hour debate, maybe asked him 30 minutes of questions, 2 hours, and he really couldn't land anything that made any damn sense. Let's see. Did you ask Jesus for something you don't get? Now you mad? Did daddy leave you and now you're blaming? Oh, honestly, that might be what it is, because he does act like somebody who maybe a little Catholic priest might have touched him a couple of times, and maybe now he's mad at God. Why did they do that to me? I can see that. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. What percentage of the atmosphere is for human life? I was like, what? This is like one of the dumbest. Why does that matter? That doesn't even make sense. I mean, that's making it as if, like, yeah. Well, think about it. Does anything at all in the world not have an end? I mean, shit, you build a car, the car's only going to last so long, right? You build a house, they eventually fall down, right? I mean, there's only so many, everything has an endpoint. Even empires have endpoints. But he just thinks, well, I don't. It's almost so weird, his questioning, that it's almost hard to respond back to it, because it's like, the fuck does that have to do with anything? That doesn't even matter. And that shows me this person doesn't understand the Bible at all, because their questions are so disconnected. It's asked 150% from an atheist standpoint. It is asked from the standpoint that you automatically are just certain that this is wrong. Says, I only disconnected when, yeah, I don't care when. You couldn't shut up for 5 minutes. You literally took 2 hours of the debate, but didn't want to shut up for a little while. And you never got to a damn point. So that's why I muted you, because you were just going to keep talking over me the whole time. This wasn't a discussion. This wasn't even really a debate. This was literally like I sat down for a deposition and you just fired questions without ever having to defend any of your points, because you can't defend any of your points because you don't have a point. That said, I'm going to get on out of here. You all have a good one. Thank you for tuning into my first live stream with Hebrew Apologetics. The next one is going to be a good one that I'm planning. We are going to get into, got a couple of videos before I do it, but the next live stream, we're going to talk about Deuteronomy 28. Skeptical, more than likely, I'm probably going to block you from the channel, because I know you're probably going to come in and say some stupid shit that I don't want to hear. So keep notice, just don't come in there, or shut your mouth when you do. As far as dealing with you, you're a waste of my time. Don't bother me anymore. You all have a great weekend. And for those celebrating the Shabbat Shalom, and for any Hebrew Israelites out there, Kwam Yasharallah. I also want to say all praises to my Heavenly Father Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai. That said, we're signing off. You guys have a good one.